Hello guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Mount Lady had a crush on Deku the moment she saw him, Harem, part 3. So before we start, go check out the author of this fanfic Thicc. Link is in the description, also subscribe to our channel, and like this video, so let's begin the video. It was a nice day. It was peaceful and quiet, there were even snowflakes falling from the skies. The incident of last night looked like a far dream. Everything was alright except for Izuku Midoriya. The young boy was on his way to the library to get more books that could help him with new things for his training and maybe take his stressed mind out of his current predicament. Said predicament being the people who texted him last night and what his mother told him. He was happy to see they care so deeply about him, but it was still terrifying. The catboy decided to make a stop on his way. He entered that little clearing at the park where he received his lucky amulet all those months back. Izuku still carries it around, it was currently in the back pocket of his pants. The boy comes to this place from time to time so he can relax, and it was just what he needed right now. He also comes here hoping he can meet the person who made the crown, though, his luck seems to suck. He knows the person still comes thanks to his senses, but he still hasn't met them. Izuku just laid down on the snow, contemplating the sky. What do you think I should do? Izuku asked his partner as he began to move his arms and legs unconsciously. About your mother's ultimatum or your friend's Nico needs clarification. Izuku's mom had told him something yesterday which was quite harsh. If you put yourself in any danger again, I won't let you apply to the UA, she told him with tears in her eyes. He couldn't blame her. He brought this upon himself by being so reckless. Both the boy answered. Your mom is right. You're everything for her, so just follow her demand and focus on your training. About everyone else. Avoid them for a week so they can cool down a little. Maybe they won't be that harsh. The feline proposed to him. That sounds like a plan. Thanks, I don't know what I'd do without you. He paused for a moment, a grim semblance appearing on his face. No, I seriously don't want to think about that. Let's go to the library. But that decided, the boy stood up and left the park. A few minutes later, a girl in winter clothes with thorny vines for hair came to the clearing. The Barashiyazaki began to laugh at what she found there. There was a snow angel with cat ears and a tail. It was cute and endearing, but it made her laugh for no reason. It was now 5 p.m. Izuku already got the books he wanted and was now on his way home when he received a message. It was from his mom. Mom? Izuku, could you buy some ingredients for dinner on your way home? Thank you, honey. She then listed them. The boy just took his eyes off his phone and looked across the street. There it was, a convenience store. How convenient. Nico commented. Oh, my god, seriously, Izuku groaned at that as he made his way inside. After picking everything he needed, the boy made his way to the cashier. When he was paying, he felt something sniff. Oh no, it was the aroma of danger. Can you pay this for me, Izuku? A hand that came from behind him put a bag of lollipops on the counter. Sai sure, Toga-chan. He said without looking behind. Thank you, Izuku. You're the best. The little killer hugged him, nuzzling her face against his back. The cashier thought she was his girlfriend, he couldn't be farther from the truth. They went outside, Himiko already had a lollipop in her mouth. Hey, Toga-chan, could you not create any trouble? I'm against a hard place, and you could be the rock or the knife in this case, Izuku said calmly. Maybe too calm for his liking. There I go again. Every time she's around I start to behave strangely. Do you know why? Yes, Nekensword. It's the blood fragrance she carries around. To any big carnivore, especially a feline whose smell is stronger than its taste, the smell of blood, it's like a drug, which boosts your senses and attitude. That's why you act bold and confident. We're talking about human blood, you know. You're not entirely human anymore. Very deep down, it's just a minuscule part of you, but you no longer view humans as equals. I'm sorry. The feline apologized. No, don't worry. Animals can feel empathy toward other species. He came back to reality. Himiko pouted, her cheeks puffed up, making her strangely adorable. Fine, just because you ask so nicely. She said, I wanted to stab you a little, but I guess it can't be helped. Izuku let out a sigh in relief. He just dodged a bullet with a knife. Thank goodness she gave in. He was in a pickle for a second there. Midoriya was unable to mess with her due to his mother's warning. If he tried to capture her, she just would get violent. But, at least. If she's with me, she won't be with anyone else, he murmured. Oh? Is Izuku jealous? She asked in a teasing way, misinterpreting his words. Toga put her arms around his neck in an embrace. Don't worry, she whispered. Izuku is special. The smell of blood was concentrated in her mouth. Last time he was too weak to notice, but now a growl escapes his lips. Toga, can you give me a lollipop? He needed something to distract himself. She popped her tongue out, presenting the candy to him. His mouth opened slowly as he got closer. It was hard to control himself. Don't bite the tongue off. Don't bite the tongue off. Don't bite the tongue off. Following his chanting, his teeth dragged the candy into his mouth delicately. With a pleased smile on her face, Toga ended the hug. Izuku covered his mouth and looked away. That was when he noticed that every bystander in the vicinity was staring right at them. Some guys were looking jealous, and most girls were covering their mouths with a huge blush on their faces. That was when the realization of what he just did hit him full force. His face exploded in pure red. He looked back at Toga to see if she noticed. His embarrassment died abruptly when he gave her a better look. Himiko blew hot air onto her naked hands to warm them up. The little killer was wearing the same outfit as last time. Her nose was a little red, and so were her knuckles and ears. Toga-chan. His voice was gentle. Do you have more clothes? She looked a little surprised at the question. This is all I have since I escaped home. After answering, she closed her eyes and went back to warm her hands again. Izuku clicked his tongue in displeasure. Your days. Izuku began to take off his scarf. Himiko perked up at that catchphrase. When she looked up, she was surprised by a piece of cloth going around her neck. Your hand, Izuku said, extending his arm without noticing her expression. She just stood there, stunned in disbelief. It's okay, just give me your hand. Impatiently, the catboy grabbed her right and pulled it towards him. He took his right winter glove off with his mouth, revealing his bandaged fingers, and then touched her hand. Damn, it's so cold. He winced at that. He put his glove on her hand, he did the same with her left hand. After that, he rubbed her hands together while blowing hot air. Better? That question took her out of her stupor. Yeah. Her eyes went immediately to his fingers. You're bleeding. A smile appeared on her face. Yeah. I guess they still haven't closed. It was last night, so he trailed off when Toga grabbed his right hand and began to undo the bloody bandages of his index finger. Some of the flesh of his fingertip was gone, leaving a gross red flesh. So pretty. Slurp. After saying that, she put the finger in her mouth and began to suck it tenderly. What are you doing? Izuku asked, more curious than weirded out. Blotchy, bloody lollipop, she spoke with his finger still in her mouth. I see. He said, like if that made any sense. He just accepted as it was and patted her head with his free hand. Just be careful with the claw. Toga giggled at that. Only her Izuku would act like this. After another 3 bloody lollipops, they parted ways. Toga didn't want to, but after Izuku called the police, it left her with no option. HMPH. Izuku, you dummy. Himiko complained while she was roaming a dark alley on her way to her hideout. Oh? What happened to you, little girl? Did your boyfriend dump you? A man's voice came from behind. Toga turned her head to see, though her face was uninterested. There were 3 men. From their looks, she guessed they were simple thugs. The blonde girl smiled, her food had just arrived by itself. Don't worry, we can give you some company. Another thug spoke with a creepy smile on his face. Yeah, we'll keep you warm tonight. The leader spoke again. So, don't worry about your boyfriend. That stupid cat kid thinks he's the best just because he saved a baby. He couldn't even face us last time, and an old geezer had to come to wipe his ass for him. One of the thugs laughed at that. I bet he wasn't enough of a man to please you. Yeah, he's just a bitch, a piece of crap. The words of the thug came to an end abruptly. With eyes wide in horror, he touched his throat. His hand was covered in blood. The man fell on the ground, holding his throat in a futile attempt to stop the bleed. The other 2 thugs were paralyzed on their spot and began to tremble as they saw their brother die in an instant. Toga was next to the body with a bloody knife in her right hand. Her serious face winced in disgust when she looked at the body. Ah, not even after so much blood, you're a little cuter. When her eyes landed on the other 2, she frowned. None of you can even come close to Izuku, so stop spitting so much shit about him. It really pisses me off. When she yelled, the thugs fell on their asses, one even wet his pants. At least, just because you're the crap of society, Izuku won't get mad at me if I just end your lives. People around that area heard screams that chilled their spines that night. After they left out their last scream, Himiko stood up. Ah, you asshole. You stained Izuku's scarf with your disgusting blood. In frustration, she kicked the dead man's face, snapping his neck in a loud crack noise. I'm not hungry anymore. With that last statement, Toga left the corpses there. These assholes just ruined her night. For the first time, Himiko Toga passed on the opportunity to drink blood. 6 days later. Yama-san. Where are we going? Izuku asked. He's been following the blonde woman around for quite some time. To my apartment. She answered without looking back. And what are we going to do there? Izuku asked again. She hasn't told him anything about it. She just told him that she would call him when she had time, so he could repay her for saving his life, and now, here he was. Me? Nothing. You're going to clean it. You finally answered the big question. At least it wasn't anything too serious. Although, if this was all she was asking for, then she was a really lazy person. After walking a few streets, they finally arrived at their destination. Here we are. The pro-heroine said, opening the door. Home sweet home. Well, this is going to be easy. He stopped when he looked inside. Takeyama-san. I don't want to sound rude, but every time someone says that they're going to be rude, you know. She let out an exasperated sigh. Is this really your apartment? He continued anyway. And there it is. The woman commented. Look, I'm always busy with my job. You know, fighting villains and saving people, and I end up pretty tired to do this. You didn't look tired when you saved me. Izuku judged her mentally. So, I'm grateful when you offered a helping hand, so thank you. Her personality did a 180 turn. She became cheerful, giving him her best fake smile, the smile she used to get anything she wants from men. They are so easy. Don't worry about it. Izuku just walked past her, ignoring her completely. To say she was taken aback was an understatement. Did this brat just ignore me? She gritted her teeth, her head snapped in his direction with an angry expression on her face. Okay, calm down, you. This kid just doesn't know what he wants. I mean, look at me, every time I do something every man breaks their neck to lay their eyes on me. Yumu, that's it, the problem is with this brat, not with me. The woman tried to calm herself, though her right eyebrow twitched ever so slightly from time to time. Izuku was impressed. He didn't think a place could be worse than Dagaba Beach, but somehow Mount Lady did it. There were leftovers of junk food here and there, he even noticed a slice of pizza stuck on the ceiling. The tables were filled with beer cans. Used clothes were thrown everywhere, and that was just the normal stuff. How is it? Is that a mop piercing the wall? He didn't think that was possible. Sigh, I can already feel the headache. Deciding to not lose any more time, he put his backpack on the cleanest spot he could find. Mount Lady had told him to buy plastic bags. Apparently, he will need the whole package. She also told him to bring rubber gloves, and luckily, Nico told him to buy a mouth cover. I'm going to change, Takeyama informed him, as she went to one of the rooms. Don't try to peek her aisle. Don't worry about it, Izuku interrupted her while waving his hand, he didn't even bother to look at her. You growled, his attitude towards her was pissing her off for some reason. What's with this kid? She slammed the door. Okay, let's start with the couch and continue from there. The catboy said, already with all his equipment on. It took him a few minutes to clean it because he decided to separate things between trash and recyclables. If he's going to do this, he's going to do it right. It looks better now. The boy was pleased with himself. Takeyama came back, throwing herself on the recently cleaned couch, opening a bag of Doritos while turning on the TV. She had changed into a loose white t-shirt and black shorts. The t-shirt said something that she probably didn't know what it meant because it was in English. He did, though. It said, if she breathes, she's a thought. What? She asked, seeing the catboy staying there, staring at her with a derogatory face. Izuku looked at his hands. I feel like something just awakens inside of me. I know what it is, Nico responded. It's called a tiger mom. That doesn't make any sense, but I'll accept it as it is. He continued with his cleaning. He continues with the beer cans, then the leftovers, then the dirty clothes. One pile of clothes, in particular, made him stay still, staring at it. Her underwear. Izuku stated the obvious. Takeyama-san, I found your underwear. So? Pick it up and put it with the other. She was entertained by the TV and didn't care. He was just a brat after all. Sigh with resignation, he extended his hand. Then immediately retrieved it back. It moved. He has really good eyes to see the pile move a little. Something wrong? You asked from her spot. Your underwear just moved. He said in a panic, was this some paranormal crap? Ha. Oh. It's probably my pet. Just as she said that the head of a little creature came out from the clothes. Oh hey, little buddy. Izuku picked him up. It's your pet a hamster by any chance? He asked. Can she even take care of him? Yep, he wanders around as he pleases, he's one of the primary reasons I need you to clean the apartment. She answered. His name is Little Chungus. I stopped working. What? He shook his head to regain his composure. Who names their hamster Little Chungus? Meh, I've heard worse, like someone naming their cat, Nico. The feline said it was a little salty. Ouch. You're never going to let me live that one down, right? Nope. Izuku continued cleaning. He put the clothes in the washing machine and Lil Chung in his cage and went to the bathroom. Well, it looks tidy enough. Just a little brushing here and there and it is done. Then something crawled on the wall. It was a cockroach. Why am I not surprised? The shampoo bottle fell for no reason, and the little bug opened its wings and began to fly towards him. The catboy slammed the door, as if his life depended on it. I need a flamethrower. Even as a humanoid cat, the fear towards a flying cockroach was still implanted in his brain like any normal human being. After that little incident, Midoriya continued with his crusade. And soon after, it was 7 p.m. Mount Lady stood up, stretching her body. I'm hungry. She stated. I'm going for dinner, do you want something, kid? She went to her room to get a change. Although, before she could enter, someone grabbed her wrist. It was Izuku. What are you going to buy? His serious face startled her. What was with the sudden change? Hamburger. You got a little nervous. Those big emeralds were looking directly at her purple eyes, a little blush crept onto her cheeks. So I knew it. He got a little exasperated. The boy looked at her again. She jumped a little when she saw those annoyed eyes. Nobody had looked at her like that before. Well, maybe Kamui Woods, though these were a little different, there was a glint of concern. You take Yama-san, you cannot keep doing this. Junk food is not good for your health. He let go of her wrist and turned his back to her. Sit down, I'll see what I can prepare. No, you don't need to. I didn't bring you to cook me. She tried to refuse, but she just shut up when he looked over his shoulder. It wasn't a suggestion. Mount Lady found herself sitting at the table a second after. It was like she was a kid again and received an order from her mother. When she came out of her stupor, the woman noticed how clean her apartment was. Everything was organized and clear. She wasn't expecting the kid to go this far. Her eyes went at the said boy who was in the now clean kitchen. Izuku opened the fridge. Not much eggs, sausages, some other stuff. At least there is some rice. Okay, I can work with this. Yu's eyes were glued to the boy, examining his every movement. Her face flushed when Izuku rolled up the sleeves of his sweater for some strange reason that was sexy. What the fuck, you? Stop looking at a kid like that. This brat. On top of that, she was lucky he didn't notice. 30 minutes later, Izuku put a plate in front of her and a glass of cold tea. The pro-heroine froze. Did she really have the ingredients to make the amazing looking omelet sitting before her? The catboy sat across from her. An omelet is not that hard to make, and he practiced with his mother when he had the time. Yu kept looking at her plate, then at him repeatedly, unable to believe that brat did this. She finally decided to take a bite. Fua, she let out a weird noise of how good it tasted. The woman covered her mouth and looked at the kid, a little flustered for her demeanor. He was just there smiling at her, which flustered her even further. Aren't you going to eat? She asked, seeing no plate in front of him. It wasn't enough for me. Don't worry. He said. That's not good. You're my guest. Yu protested. At least she cares, Izuku said in his mind. He then pulled a Snicker bar out of nowhere, opened it, and gave it a bite. Better. She was staring at him with a deadpan face. You know that's not how it goes, right? Yeah. He answered with the same face. After a few seconds of silence, they burst into laughter. After they calmed down, Yu's face became melancholic as she gazed at the omelet. When was the last time I had a dinner like this? The last time was with her family when she still lived in the countryside. It wasn't the life she wanted, but family was family and she missed them. How are mom and pops doing? Her face didn't go unnoticed this time. The simplest of words that came out of his mouth were the ones that changed her life. How was your week? He asked. Such a simple question hit her really hard. Her eyes went wide while her whole body got paralyzed. Her mouth opened hesitantly until words began to come out. She began to tell everything about her week. Every single detail. For a second she was a kid again, talking with her family, like that day all those years back when she decided to tell them she wanted to be a hero. And just like her family smiled at her at that time, this brat did too. By the time she noticed, she had already told him everything. Her omelet has disappeared, but when? For some reason, she was panting too. She also felt the moisture on her eyes, and soon after, a tear escaped them. Yet, before she could do something about it, something perched itself on top of her head. When you looked up, she found the brat patting her head, a calm smile on his face. Good girl. Why did she, the one with the gigantification quirk, feel so minuscule next to him? Her whole face puffed in a mad blush. She immediately slapped his hand away. What do you think you're doing? I'm not some kind of dog. She yelled, though her blush prevented her from looking intimidating. If you're done eating, go back and finish cleaning. She said. Yeah. Izuku turned around and began to walk. Cute. He murmured. What did you call me? Takeyama yelled again, her blush returned with full strength. The catboy froze in his tracks. His head turned back with a blush on his face. Did I say that out loud? That was a rhetorical question. Of course, he did, why else would she say that? I have to clean. He escaped. Mount Lady stood there, returning to her empty plate. Then she suddenly smacked the table when she found herself smiling. I'm not happy. I'm not, she tried to convince herself while a pout appeared on her face. It was at this instant when she realized that maybe bringing this brat here wasn't the right choice. After some time, Izuku finally finished cleaning. Well, that's all. You can go now, you don't owe me anything now. You rushed the kid out. Now we don't have to see each other again. She said, though that sounded sad for some reason. Izuku tilted his head. What are you talking about? I'm going to come next week too. She raised her voice in surprise. What? Why? I didn't ask for it. The woman retorted. Takeyama-san, you saved my life. And how I saw things today. Your life is a disaster. I won't allow you to continue this way. That's why I'll be coming every week and supervising if something like this doesn't occur again. Izuku was trying to sound professional, yet the truth was that he was bullshitting his way to help her. I never asked for your help, you know. You continued with her son personality. I know. That stopped her on her track, the boy sounded more serious. But I want to be a hero. And at least for me, a hero always offers their help without being asked for it. That's why smile I want to do this. Again, that smile. That stupid smile caught her off guard. Fine. Do as you wish. She crossed her arms in resignation. She couldn't argue with this kid, it felt like arguing with her mom. She never won an argument against her mom. Perfect. Also, I'm not a brat. I already told you, my name is Izuku Midoriya. You take Yama-san. And just like that, the catboy left. You entered her apartment and rested against the door. What's wrong with him, she muttered. Looking up, she was able to see her apartment and the state he left it. The woman had to admit, everything was impeccable. If he was going to keep this, then he would be like her butler. A catboy butler. That sounds like a really lame plot for a romance, and her eyes darted at the balcony where her clothes were drying up. With a blush, her eyes went wide when she noticed her underwear there. The young woman crouched and covered her red face. He touched my underwear and I allowed it. How am I going to look him in the face next time? She was unable to see how much her personality changed towards Izuku in a few hours. From that day on, until the entrance exam, Izuku pushed Mount Lady to be a better hero. Calling her to resolve any dangerous situation and to keep his promise with his mother. He truly embraced the feeling of a tiger mom with her. Yu, on the other hand, developed a complicated relationship with the catboy. Days later, Izuku finally returned to the gym and Death Arms. Well, the pro didn't lie. The greenhead truly wished not to be saved by Mount Lady. Also, for some reason, Bakugo kept ignoring him in school. Was he busy with something? And now it was Kirishima's turn. Okay, I let you hit me once out of courtesy, Kirishima-kun, Izuku informed. So, you better make it count because it's not happening again. Fine by me. The Redeed answered, readying his stance. You still don't know how we felt that day, and it's my job to make it loud and clear. Ijiro hit his fists together, hardening them. Brace yourself, Midoriya. The hardening boy launched himself, rearing his right fist. The memories of that day came back. That emptiness of losing his brother pushed him further, and for a moment, his fist went full unbreakable. The fist connected the catboy's face. Izuku's body flew through the air for a second to finally land on the floor, inert. Midoriya. Ijiro called his name, but he didn't move. Midoriya. The red boy rushed toward his friend. He had knocked him out cold. An hour later, Izuku woke up. I'm sorry. I went overkill. Kirishima apologized. He truly was sorry. No, I'm the one who is sorry. Izuku patted his shoulder. If that's how you and everyone else felt, then I can allow it to happen again. No matter what. It was a little melancholic. Well, how about we continue with our spar? Izuku decided to put those complicated thoughts in the back of his head for later. Yeah. Kirishima agreed. I have a request, though. He had his brother's full attention now. Stop holding back, Midoriya. What do you mean? I haven't been holding, the catboy was interrupted. Yes, you've been. I know you enough to tell. The red boy continued. So you got it all wrong. It's not that I've been holding back, it's just I've been developing my own fighting style, or should I say, modus operandi. Well, the thing is that I'm not completely comfortable with it. It's supposed to be used against enemies after all. Oh, now you have my attention. If you want to know how effective it is, then it's better to test it with someone. And who's better than me with my hardening? Ijiro exclaimed with a big smile. No, you don't understand, Izuku responded a little nervously. This fighting style disregards completely the quirk of the opponent. I don't fully get it, just do it. I want to help, as an apology for knocking you before. Kirishima continued with his naivety. Fine. Izuku gave up. But, don't hate me when you start crying, okay? I'm not that soft. The red boy puffed his chest. A few inches later. How could you? How could you? Ijiro was on his knees, crying his eyes out. I warned you, didn't I? Izuku was trying to calm his bro down. Yeah, but how was I supposed to be prepared for that? Kirishima complained. That's the thing, Kirishima-kun. No one is supposed to be prepared for it. Izuku confessed. But that wasn't manly at all. It was almost villainous. You're starting to scare me. The concern on his face says it all. It's only supposed to be used against villains, so don't worry. The greenhead stated. Let's forget about it. Tell me, how's your training with Yagi-san? Yeah, that was the perfect topic to forget this. Kirishima doesn't come to the gym regularly now due to his personal training to receive one for all. Izuku was invited to do it too, but he declined. He had his own personal training. He's pushing me to the limits, you know. It's quite hard. Ijiro informed him while letting out a sigh to escape his mouth. You say that like if I didn't do the same. You know. You're right, you two are sick. Kirishima stated. Also, you could ask Igata-senpai to spar with you. It helps to put things in perspective of how much there is to improve. Izuku said, as a matter of fact. Oh? Is he strong? Kirishima asked curiously. Well, out of the 20 spars we had so far I haven't even been able to touch him. Damn. Yep. And you don't want to know how the first one went. The red boy just looked at him curiously. How do I say it? I don't think it couldn't have been considered a spar at all. At that, Ijiro whistled. Yeah, you got fucked, Nico commented with a smirk. Don't say it like that when I was with my butt raised and he was naked, please. Izuku pleaded. Nico went awfully quiet. You just became a Fujoshi, didn't you? No. Why would I? Though you should consider. Nope, no, not happening. Not in a million years. Midoriya didn't let her finish. I'll buy you a manga. But that's as far as I'm willing to go for you. Being a noble hero was hard. The boy returned to reality. Hey, talking about fighting styles, you should try something, Kirishima-kun. Like kickboxing. The catboy suggested. I know your hardening is strong, and on top of that, you're going to get one for all. But there's no excuse to not have technique. Overwhelming power, it's not everything. I'm trying something too. Ah. That sounds nice, I'll talk with Yagi-sensei about it. Ijiro clenched his fist in excitement. After a few hours of training, Izuku left the gym. His gaze went up to the night sky. He was thinking about how everyone felt the day he saved that baby. It created a paradox. The road of a hero which Izuku has chosen. He will put his life on the line to save everyone, but if he dies, those who care for him will be unhappy, and the hero he wants to do the opposite. To put it simply, he will risk his life as a hero, but if he dies for it, he is no hero. Too complicated. Being a hero is hard. It was funny that the answer to such a complicated thing was so simple. He has to get stronger, there is no other way around, become so strong that the risk of dying gets lower. No, that was wrong, only strength wasn't enough, there had to be more to reduce that chance of dying to zero. End world suffering, yes, that was it, that was the answer, and at the same time, it still wasn't enough. Ending the suffering is not enough. What else is there? What was a satisfactory answer? What was Thicc? In his hard thinking, something else came to his mind. Smiles, the smiles of everyone he knows. Happiness achieves the world's happy ending, yeah, that's better. It's decided, then the ultimate goal is set. After all of this, it appears that the answer wasn't as simple as he first thought. Nico, on the other hand, hated it. She hated this maturity. Why was he like this? Why did he have to give it so much thought to it? It would have been better if he was just a naive boy. The first answer was fine, but becoming stronger was fine, but that last one she didn't like one bit. It is an impossibility, because she was sure that if it was Izuku, he would make it a reality, but at what cost? Was his own happy ending still included there? The fact that she couldn't answer immediately with a yes scared her. This stupid selflessness of his was the best trait for a hero, but the worst curse for a person. Ouch, ouch, ouch. It hurts. I give up. I give up. I'm sorry. Izuku screamed. You better be. Think about your babies next time you do something so dangerous. Mei turned the torture machine off. Think of me next time you do something like that. She muttered quietly. Izuku heard that, and now he felt awful. I'm truly sorry. The boy said. Not going to happen again, I promise. I almost thought I became a widow, Mei said, crossing her arms with a pout. Izuku laughed at her joke. I'm really sorry, dear. He hugged her. Unknown to them, Mei's father was listening, he had come when he heard Izuku scream. I wonder if they're really joking about it. He thought, a smile appearing on his face. December has come to an end, and a new year has begun. Izuku, as a good friend, has gifts to everyone he knows, a present, yeah, even to Toga. She looked really happy with a vial of his own blood. Of course, he's been trying to convince her to surrender to the police, she just won't listen. He can't go further than that for now. Right now, he was running low on cash. He could ask his mother for a little, but he didn't feel like it was about his pride. So, now he was downtown looking for an easy job for someone of his age. What was I thinking? It's not like a job specifically for me would appear in front of me or something, he said. The black car stopped in front of him. The driver pulled down the window and said, "Izuku Midoriya, we have a job for you." To say he was taken aback was an understatement. He looked at the sky, wondering if he should ask for Katsuden to rain from it. Izuku entered the car after they said a word, and one word only: Yubawami. Yeah, better not get on her bad side, even though he was already on it. After a short ride, he arrived at a studio, where he met her. "Oh, you are finally here. Great," she said with a professional smile on her face. "Yeah, thanks for the offer, but I don't know why I was even brought here," he stated. "Also, how was your Christmas present? I know that it wasn't much, and you probably have received better things, but I hope you like it." It took a lot of the heroine to not blush and keep it cool. "Thanks, I like them a lot, though I have to ask. Why did you send two?" One of the presents was a simple ring with the word hero imprinted on it. She was wearing it a few seconds ago, but she took it off when he arrived. The other one was a sweater which she now uses every night as her pajamas, not like she would say it or anything. "Oh, one was for your birthday. December 9th if I remember correctly. Sorry for not being on time." The catboy apologized, scratching the back of his head. Truth be told, not a single fan of hers knew her birthday or didn't care enough to remember. Her agency and other people she worked with didn't give her anything, thinking that she would probably receive better stuff than whatever they could afford to, and just told her a simple happy birthday. And then there was this stupid kid. A brainless cinnamon roll who she met once and did what no one could. He apparently was the only person who didn't see Iwami the snake hero and celebrity and saw the person. That was all it took to blow her defenses, making her blush immediately. "Stop being cute, goddammit." She tried to suppress her blush. "I see. Well, that's part of why I brought you here. I figured out that you probably didn't have money after that, so I thought of this as thanks." Damn, now this was becoming harder to tell. "Oh, thanks." He gave her a pure smile. "What's the job about?" "You're going to be in a commercial," she told him. Cough cough come again. That caught him by surprise. "You heard me." She crossed her arms and smirked. Damn, her sass was real. "So, I'm going to be like an assistant." He tried to rationalize. "No, you're actually going to be on your own." She shattered his hopes. "It's a masculine commercial after all. Here, this is the product you're going to promote." She handed him something. "You've probably heard of it." Izuku just stared at the product. "This is Old Spice. Yep, it is a famous brand of products from the US. You want me to promote this?" Iwami nodded. "The company is trying to reach new horizons." She gave him a brief explanation. "I don't know if you have seen me, but I'm not exactly, how do I say this without sounding racist?" Black Nico finished it for him. "That sounds really racist." Izuku thought. "I'm no Terry Crews, you know." He finally found the correct words. Isn't he supposed to do the commercials for this brand? Yeah, but he couldn't make it to Japan. Being one of the top heroes in the US has its drawbacks. The snake heroine answered him. "But why me? They should be better people for the job." The boy tried to make sense of the situation. "He was the one who requested it. He thought you were perfect for the job," she explained. "Though I was the one who told him about you. I want to see you make a fool of yourself." A malefic smile appeared on her face. This was the lesson she was going to use on him. So, he doesn't get cocky for being famous, for just saving that baby. Unfortunately, she didn't know that the only person that didn't know Izuku was famous was Izuku himself. The boy wasn't paying attention, he was too busy fanboying over what she told him. Gasped the great hero. "Doomfist knows me. How does he know me?" It took some time for him to calm down. "Okay, I'm in. I can't disappoint him." "Great. The contract has actually been signed up already by your mother." She showed him the contract with his mother's signature. That was efficient right there. It was logical to get his mother's approval, he's still a teenager after all. "Now, follow me. Let me introduce you to the team." While he was following her, Izuku decided to smell the famous deodorant. It smells just like Tagada-senpai. Does that mean he uses it? Well, now we know why he always shouts power. Every time he kicks your ass. Nico commented. Izuku laughed at that, he could totally picture it in his head. They both arrived at the recording studio. "Oh, so this is the kid I had heard so much about," the director said with a smile, stretching his hand to the boy. "Yubawami talked a lot about you, mostly good things." The heroine tried to not blush at that comment, though her eyes were trying to pierce the man's heart. Izuku shook his hand. Ah, thanks, I will be in your care. He bowed his head. The boy wondered why he was being treated with such respect, he was just a normal kid. After that, they went into more detail about the task at hand. That reminds me. Midoriya-kun. The director called his name. Because this is a commercial for this brand, I was wondering if you had the physique for it. Don't worry if you don't, we'll just edit it after. Wait, am I going to do this only in my underwear like Sir Doomfist? The boy got nervous if that was the case. It's this good? He asked while taking his shirt off. Everyone went quiet. His physique was more than enough. This time it was impossible for Yubawami to suppress her blush. The silence was finally ended by the whistle from someone, probably one of the females in the team. That's great. You should go to prepare yourself. The director dismissed him to his dressing room. Well, I gotta say, I was a little skeptical, but he seems like a good boy. After some time, they started to roll it. Until an hour passed. Everyone in the room was quiet with a deadpan face. This was so embarrassing. Izuku ran back to his changing room while covering his red face. Through the minds of everyone in the studio ran the same word CUT. They felt cozy inside for some reason. Well, as expected of Iwami-san. Midoriya-kun was great. The director said with a pleased smile. We would like to work with him in the future, though that's for you to decide, as his manager, Iwami-san. Yeah, she was still awestruck. Her plan of Izuku making a fool of himself backfired. She's been tricked, she's been backstabbed, and she's been quite possibly bamboozled. Izuku's performance was impeccable, it wasn't at the level of an amateur at all. What the fuck happened? She went to his changing room and knocked on the door. Hey Midoriya, I need to talk to you, can I come in? Yes, he answered. When she entered, she found him covering his face with his arms. How was it? I hope it wasn't that bad. For some reason, the low confidence in himself pissed her off. That's what I want to know. How did you do it? It was almost perfect. She raised her voice. He let out a sigh in relief. So it wasn't that bad, thank goodness. He then looked at her with nervousness. I've actually been practicing how to act on my own. He confessed. Why? And how? She was really confused by that. I took it as part of my hero training. He wasn't lying. Acting was one of the secret training that Nico had made him do. After all, cats throughout history and stories had been known as tricksters. She also said he would need it in the future. And well, she was starting to get impatient. I learned by watching all your commercials. He covered his face. How you act, your posture, your body language, the little expressions on your face. I'm really sorry for being creepy. Toga had to do a little bit too, though. He shielded himself behind his hands, expecting her to get angry and missing completely the mad blush on her face. More than feeling crept out, the snake heroine felt flattered beyond belief. Geez, what's wrong with him? Are you not mad at me? Izuku asked after not hearing anything. Don't worry about it. She had turned around to hide her face and tried to calm down. You did a great job. And don't worry about anything else. I'll take care of it and contact you later. You can go home now. The heroine said after keeping her emotion in check, but then she remembered something. Oh, yeah, before you go. Can you sign this for me? She handed him a paper. Don't read it. I want it to be a surprise. It's nothing bad, I can assure you that. The catboy just kept staring at her for a couple of seconds before smiling. Understood. I'll trust you, Iwami-san. He then proceeded to write his name down on paper without reading its content. Thanks, Izuku Midoriya. After taking the paper back, she saw the wondering face of the boy. Something in your mind? Well, I was just curious why the hero Doomfist didn't make it, the boy asked. Oh, well, it's confidential, but I guess I could tell you. She looked around to make sure no one was eavesdropping. He is still dealing with the aftermath of the raid to Area 51. They're still doing that? The kid asked with a deadpan face. It became like an annual event in the US. She shrugged it off, still not understanding American stuff. It's not a bad thing, they are allowed to use their quirks to let them blow off some steam. And it's fun for them, there haven't been casualties in ages, and some heroes even join in to laugh. Though I still don't get it, Psy American. That sounds awesome. I want to try it. Nico, no. Bad kitty. It has been a week since his little job. The payment was good, but it was still really embarrassing. Well, it's not like a lot of people is going to see it anyways, Izuku said, trying to calm his nervousness. The catboy was downtown, on his way to buy some ingredients for his mom. She's going to teach him a new dish tonight. He's been enjoying cooking lately, the feeling when someone likes what you made is really nice, almost as good as saving someone. Where do you think you're going, young man? A woman's voice called from behind as he felt his wrist was grabbed. He turned around, he didn't recognize her, though her dark purple hair rang some bells. Excuse me, in what can I help? Sniff sniff midnight, his voice raised in astonishment. Immediately, every man on the street snapped their necks in his direction, some of them with a loud crack noise, and some of them did it, regardless of having their girls next to them. Of course, the women didn't like it one bit. Izuku noticed that right away. He needed to play it cool to not create a scene. The 18-plus hero probably was on her day off, and he didn't want to ruin it for her. "I seriously want to be sandwiched by Midnight's thighs." He said that out loud for them to hear him. Is it too late to dive off a high building? "She is literally behind me. God, if you really exist, and you made me, I want you to unmake me right now." After he said that, he heard multiple responses from the other men. "Ah, I see you're a man of culture, as well, kid. You're not alone, kid. Don't play with my heart like that. That would be the best way to die. I'm a girl, and I wish that would happen to me. Eck." He also heard multiple slaps coming from some couples. Izuku turned around, ready to see a furious woman, but instead, he came across a trembling Nomuri, trying her hardest to not burst out laughing. It took her a whole good minute to calm down. "So, you want to be sandwiched by my thighs?" She closed the distance between them and grabbed him by the chin. "I don't really mind if you really wanted. So, do you want me to?" It took all of Izuku's self-control to not say please. "I'm going to do it anyway, as part of your punishment," she declared while blowing air into his ear, sending a shiver down his spine. It took even more self-control to keep it cool down there. "By the way, how did you know it was me? Nobody outside of my coworkers recognizes me when I'm in civilian clothes." The heroine wondered out loud. After calming down and keeping his blush in check, Izuku answered. "You have a very distinctive aroma, Kayama-san." Nomuri pouted at that. "I mean, Mistress Kayama." She nodded happily after the correction. "I really don't know how to explain it. Maybe it is the essence that leaves your quirk." She smelled her wrist but couldn't get anything. "And what do I smell like?" "Like honey and cherry with a little fragrance of roses," he said with a pleasant smile and eyes closed due to how relaxing it was. "I wish I had candy with those ingredients to know how it tastes." He didn't realize he said that out loud until it was too late. "Oh? So, you want to lick me?" Nomuri asked with a grin on her face. "I didn't say that." Izuku rushed in his denial. "So, you don't want to lick me," she said with fake sadness. "I didn't say that either." After those words came out of his mouth, his cheeks began to get redder by the second. "Geez. Don't make me say weird things." He covered his face, like if that could help. Sorry. You just make it so easy that I can't help myself." The heroine laughed a little at his expense. "Well, we can continue this at my place." Without skipping a beat, she put a leash to his collar. "Eh?" Izuku couldn't believe he was really being treated like a pet. "Why at your place?" "For your punishment, of course." She smiled at him. "Now let's go, my kitten." She tugged the leash, making him move. The fact that everybody on their way looked at him weirdly was part of his punishment, so it seems. After they arrived at her place, it was punishment time. "Let's not speak about it." "So? What we learned?" Midnight was tapping her foot on the wooden floor. Izuku, on the other hand, was on his knees. "Do not jump into action until I get my license because it's dangerous for me and everyone." He also had his leash tied to a dance pole. What was a dance pole doing in Midnight's house? Let's not go into details. And? Pro heroes can deal with them more efficiently, but before he could continue, he was sprayed with water on his face. "It's not like I hate water, but this is really annoying. The boy thought. "No buts. You have to understand." She was very adamant about it. Midoriya, her tone changed, it was gentler and sad. "I know you want to do the right thing, but it's hard for those who care for you to see you in a dire situation, so, please." I know, that's why I'm working hard to avoid people getting worried over me." He clutched his pants while being careful with his claws. Youth Nomuri squeaked on the inside at his attitude. And the contrast with his maturity was so perfect. Izuku was really cute. However, she couldn't lose her semblance of authority. This was a lesson after all. "And I know how everybody feels, but it wouldn't be fair for those in need of help." The boy continued. "The big ones are probably too much for me right now, but at least a little incidents." He stopped when he heard something coming from one of the windows. "Help. Somebody help me. That man stole my purse." It was the voice of a woman. Nomuri's eyes widened in shock and snapped in Izuku's direction. "Midoriya, don't. I have to go," he said, rushing in a hurry in the window's direction. He didn't make it that far though. The boy was tugged by the neck thanks to his leash. "Midoriya, don't worry, another hero can do it." Midnight tried to calm him down. She saw through the window and spotted Kamui Woods already rushing in the thief's direction. She snapped her neck back at the boy. "See, someone is already." The pro heroine stopped mid-sentence when he saw him. The catboy was tugging the leash back. A look of determination and worry on his face. "I can do it." he tugged harder. That's not the point. Midnight was getting mad, but was cut off again. Izuku wasn't even listening to her. She must be scared. Someone needs to tell her everything is going to be okay. Someone needs to be there. It was then and there that she understood his intentions. For this kid, being a hero was more than taking down the bad guys. It wouldn't be fair for those in need of help. The meaning of his words came back and slapped her in the face. Namuri came back to reality when a noise unsettled her. Her dance pole was starting to be separated from the floor and ceiling, and the leash looked like it was going to break. Izuku wasn't going to stop until one of the three things gave up. The pole, his leash or his neck. Ah. Geez. Kayama exclaimed while taking off her top and staying with just her bra. Her quirk immediately went off. Just in time, as the leash was the first to give up. He didn't make it far, falling unconscious immediately. Well, this went great. She sarcastically commented. She scolded herself for tying the leash so well to the pole and wondered why he didn't just cut it with his claws. Then something came to her mind as her answer. She told him when it was tied to not cut it under any circumstances. Damn it, he was waiting for me to release him. Before she could go deeper into her self-loathing, she noticed something that shouldn't have been possible. Izuku woke up. The boy yawned and then stretched his spine like a real cat. Then sat down just like a cat again to later scratch his right ear with his right leg. Midoriya. She called him. Grave mistake. His head snapped in her direction. Naya. His eyes had lost that maturity and it was replaced with playfulness. Okay, you're starting to scare me. Namuri said nervously. Meow. He then began to sniff a place to then crouched ready to pounce on her. He was also purring. Meow. She wasn't ready. Midnight fell on her back with Izuku on top of her. She knew right away he wasn't trying to hurt her, though he was adamant on assaulting her face. He was trying to kiss her, or so she thought. She was quick to hold him away from his cheeks, but he was still pushing. No, wait, Midoriya. We can't do this, this is a crime. She exclaimed that with a blush on her face, though her strength was faltering by the second. Why is he acting like this? It's like he is a real cat. It was after that thought, a memory came to her. Izuku had told her during his first punishment about his quirk and that he was more like a half-human, half-animal creature. His quirk wasn't a normal mutant type. Wait. A hypothesis began to take form in her head. My quirk works better on males than females, but on animals, the effect is almost non-existent. Which means I put to sleep on his human side. Alarms went off in her head. No. Wait. Please, Midoriya. She pleaded, although it was futile, he wasn't listening. Knowing that this wasn't the normal Izuku trying to make a bold move on her, pissed her off for some reason. I said Izuku, no. He stopped immediately. So, he responds to his first name well. Heroine looked at him. And found the catboy with his tongue out. Hey. Did he want to lick me? Not kiss me. I wish I had candy with those ingredients to know how it tastes. The words he said early came to her mind. She should really pay him more attention. The woman looked at him again, just to find a really scared Izuku, like a kicked puppy, or kicked kitten in this case. Oh no, he thinks I'm mad at him. I feel horrible now. Sorry. A faint apology came from his lips. He can still talk. That was surprising. No, of course, he can still talk, he still has human vocal cords. Damn, all this situation just made her feel stupid. No, I'm not mad at you, please forgive me for yelling. She apologized, and his mood did a 180 turn. He gave her the purest of smiles. Too cute. While she was wondering if her insulin was in check. The green-head cat fell back a little, though he never stood up. In fact, after taking a good position, the human-sized cat decided that it was a good idea to drop on top of her, using her body as a bed and her upai as a pillow, putting his chin between her bosom, staring back at her. He didn't seem unsettled that the only thing separating him from her was her bra. Please don't look at me like that. His intense gaze made her blush. This new side of him was unexpected. Kaya. Namuri squeaked when she felt his arms going behind her lower back, bringing her into a warm embrace. What are you doing? Her heart was pounding against her chest. She may act bold and on the outside, but that was the character of Midnight. Namuri Kayama was a different person, or maybe it was only Izuku who made her act like this. Danger, Izuku answered, yawning profusely. What are you, silly? I'm not in danger. The blush on her face refused to leave. Loneliness dangerous. His eyelids looked heavy. The heroine didn't notice though. She was HNNNGGGG. She was covering her red face, having an insight crisis. This is it. I'm going to commit a crime, she declared to no one in particular. However, when she looked back at him, she found the catboy sleeping soundly. Not fair making me feel like this, it's not fair at all. With a smile, she returned the embrace and rolled her body to the side, making the hug deeper. Maybe a nap, it's not a bad idea. And with that, she fell asleep too. It felt nostalgic, like when she used to take naps with Sushi, her cat which wasn't with her anymore. In fact, the collar that Izuku wears was originally from the furball she loved so much. By the time he regains conscious, Izuku won't remember anything of this, but oh boy when he wakes up in her arms. And that was how eventful the first month of the year was. February came, which meant 1 month left until the entrance exam of UA. It was a cold day in Mustafa. The sky was clouded, threatening with rain to anyone who looked at it. A young man came out of a shop, he was wearing a white tracksuit and was sporting spiky hair of the same color. Thank goodness this shop had the material. My project is saved. It was already raining when he came out. This just gave him a wide grin. Oh, it's raining. Lucky saying that he pulled out an umbrella. Now that everything is done, what should I do? He began to contemplate his options. Oh yeah. Ni-chan told me about the beach that was recently cleaned. It's the perfect time to see it for myself. Not raining while looking at the sea, it's the best option. But the decision made, he went to Dagaba Beach. Natsuo didn't expect to find someone else there. And definitely not someone training like crazy in the middle of the rain. Isn't he worried about catching a cold? Natsuo wondered out loud. Wait, what the heck is that? He saw something else like a shadow. Izuku was practicing his own fighting style. And what better style than the one based on felines? He was practicing Kung Fu Tiger and Leopard style. No, this wasn't Kung Fu, that word meant being a master, and he was still too much of a novice to call it that. The boy was shadow fighting at the beach, although he wasn't doing so well. The rain was relaxing, but only that. Learning something like a new fighting style without a proper master was hard. Why are you doing this? It's kind of dumb, you know, Nico interjected. It's not dumb. I thought it would be pretty clever, with our quirk and all that. Izuku responded to. No, I wasn't talking about that. What I meant was. Why are you trying to use something that copies us? We are the real deal, why pretend? That stopped him right on his track. She was right. Sigh, as always, you're pretty dense to notice what is right on your face. Hey. That's not true. He tried to defend his pride. Nico thought of every girl that has come across Izuku's way. Suure, she said sarcastically. Well, whatever. That's not the matter right now. Just relax and let it flow through your body, let your instincts guide you, but stay in control. The boy closed his eyes and began to take deep breaths. When he opened them again, a shadow was in front of him. The figure took a fighting stance, but Izuku didn't. Felines don't do that, they just readied their muscles, and so did he. When the shadow moved to attack him, he stomped forward and swiped with his right. It was too simplistic, but the end result was lethal. His tiger swipe even created wind pressure. Nothing like All Might, but more concentrated, telling him that whoever was on the receiving end was going to lose their torso. He could not continue. If he did, he was going to lose himself. Izuku still needed practice. That was awesome. A voice yelled, catching his attention. It was some dude with spiky white hair. The rain stopped and the clouds uncovered the sun. Maybe it was a good time to take a break. Izuku looked at the guy and smiled. Thanks. I'm not that great though. He shouted while approaching the newcomer. Sorry for spying, I came to watch the sea after I heard this place was cleaned and found you here. Natuso apologized. Don't worry about it. After that, the catboy turned to see the ocean. So, what do you think of the view? It's breathtaking. The white guy said with a smile. Glad to hear that I know a better view, wanna see? Natsuo nodded. After a little walk, they both sat on top of a boulder at one of the sides of the beach. They began to chat, and in a short time, they became friends. The conversation continued, and one thing led to the other until. And now my little brother won't use the quirk of my old man as some class of petty revenge. Natsuo told Izuku with a little hatred when he mentioned his dad. Talking to the catboy was really easy for some reason. The original conversation was about quirks, and they somehow ended up talking about family. I see. Well, I don't know the details of why that is how it is, and no, you don't have to tell me. It's a really personal matter, so I won't pray about it. But Izuku patted his shoulder. I think it would be better for you and your little brother to forget that grudge against your father. Natsuo frowned at that, clearly not liking that suggestion, but Izuku wasn't done. I'm not telling you to forgive him, just stop caring. Living in constant anger and hatred may not be good. It will blind you and maybe make you commit the same mistake that you hated so much. Well, don't pay me that much attention, I probably don't know what I'm talking about. The white-haired guy was astonished. You may be right. I may lose a lot if I let that affect me so much. Thanks. Oh, but don't close your mind or yourself to your father. Who knows? He could change someday. He's still a person and people change. Izuku tried to advise him. The goal of the world's happiness was too far, but making at least one person happy was enough right now. Maybe in the future, if the opportunity presents itself, he can help this family. I doubt that would ever happen, but I'll keep it in mind. Natsuo stood up. Well, it's getting late and my university project it's not going to make itself. It was nice knowing you, and again thanks we haven't even exchanged names. You're right. I'm Izuku Midoriya. The catboy held his hand out. Right. The white-haired dude shook it. My name is Natsuo Todoroki. It was nice meeting you in person. You're cool, Midoriya. Thanks. Izuku smiled. In person. But on the inside, he was confused. You didn't sweat cinnamon roll Nico facepalmed. This was a little frustrating. It was a really nice day. Perfect for a heroine's day off. So, what better thing to do for a young woman than to go shopping? Mount Lady has been receiving a better payment thanks to a certain catboy pushing her to take any case available. So, it was time to treat herself. However, when you go shopping you need a slave to carry your stuff, and who's better than the annoying brat who has pushed you through hell? That was why Izuku was at the mall today. Right now, they were having lunch. Hamburger from time to time, it's so good. It's tastier this way. After saying that, Mount Lady gave another bite to her tasty guilty pleasure. Am I right or am I right, Izuku? Don't talk with your mouth full. Midoriya scolded her. Relaxing for a second won't kill you, alright? And stop treating me like a kid, I'm the adult here. The blonde clearly didn't like his attitude. Well, when you act like this is when you look like a kid the most. The heroine pouted at that. I'm just messing with you, you. You look cuter this way anyway. He gave a bite to his burger. Even if it did not look like it, they were on pretty good terms, they were even on first name basis. You noticed a piece of food on his right cheek and smiled mischievously. Look at you, trying to act so mature and cool, yet you're committing such a rookie mistake. She cleaned it with her finger to then eat it herself. His face went red for multiple reasons. Why does this always happen to me? He tried to cover his face with his hand. And don't do things like that, people are going to think we're a couple or something. Like if I care for something like that. Let them think whatever they want. Yes, she didn't mind, on the contrary, she would be happy if they think that. Sigh, whatever, the blush on his face didn't go away. They finished their meal and went outside. Oh yeah? That hit the spot. You exclaimed. Okay then. I'll go buy some clothes. I'll see you in an hour at the fountain. She informed him. Hard to believe. He said with a deadpan face. During this time, he has gotten to know her better, he has come to lose respect for her, so he no longer hides his thoughts from her, letting out a rare side of himself. And surprisingly, thanks to this, their relationship grew naturally. Hey. Not all women take forever to choose some clothes. Yeah. I guess you have a point. What's the point in deciding what to buy when everything will look great on you? He smiled at her, turned around, and walked away. See you in an hour then. Now was you who blushed profusely. Idiot Izuku always knew what to say to make her flustered. Now, what should I do? Izuku roamed the mall without a clear destination. More importantly, what am I going to cook for dinner? Yu is so picky when having the same food twice, and she's a hard learner for the recipes. Like an answer to his prayers, a restaurant caught his eyes. Bon appetit. He read the name of the restaurant, a simple name, but it gets the point across. French cuisine, I've never tried it. Could I even ask them for recipes? Oh? You're interested in cooking? A voice called his attention. Izuku looked at his side to find a teen about his age. The young man had slick blonde hair, which got shorter the further down his head it went, with bangs hanging over his right eye. His eyes were purplish blue. He had a contemptuous smirk. And with his choice of clothing, Izuku thought he was some kind of model. Oh, sorry, where are my manners? My name is Nito Monoma. The now named Nito held his hand up. Izuku shook it with a smile. Izuku Midoriya. And actually, yes. I want to make something for someone. But I was wondering if they would let me have some recipes. The catboy confessed. I see. Well, the best way to learn is if you taste them firsthand. I was actually going to have lunch here. Want to join me? I could tell you how to make some of the dishes while we're at it. Monoma proposed to the feline kid. Are you sure? I don't want to impose. Don't worry about it. Having company from time to time, it's a welcome experience. The blonde insisted. Then I pay for everything, as a way to thank you, Izuku said. I have to decline, but I appreciate the thought, Midoriya-san. I'll pay for my orders. Nito refused. Shall we enter then? Izuku nodded. They began to know each other. Although Monoma's true objective was to judge the famous boy who was in the mouth of everyone. He soon realized that the catboy wasn't a prick with delusions of greatness. He was actually pretty chill. I see. You want recipes for simple dishes, Nito trailed off. Izuku nodded. Then how about you try ratatouille, or maybe croque monsieur? French onion soup is a good option too. Perhaps Kako Vin to go with a ratatouille. The blonde looked back at Izuku just to find him with a little notebook and pen in hand and sparkling eyes. Monoma could help but to giggle at that. After the great meal, Izuku stood up to leave. Thanks again for everything, Monoma-san. It was my pleasure. Take care, Midoriya-san. Nito waved his hand from the table. Before the catboy could exit the restaurant, he bumped into someone. It was another blonde guy with a feminine face, his bearing was that of a young prince. I'm sorry, I wasn't looking. Midoriya apologized immediately. Okay, ne t'inquiète pas de cas. The blonde answered in French with a smile. Izuku couldn't understand, but judging by his body language and expression, he assumed he told him to not worry about it. Well, it was literally what the blonde said, surprisingly enough. Again, I'm sorry. He bowed his head and head out, not before he heard the waiter say something. Ah. Aoyama-san, the usual, yes. The waiter asked, recognizing the regular. Oui. The blonde answered. Izuku continued with his roaming. I still got 15 minutes before he could continue, his ears twitched, picking a commotion in front of one of the shops. What's happening? He moved to check it out. I knew I shouldn't have come to buy the game here. Thought Shuchi Iguchi. He was a young man who stood out from the rest of the people thanks to his quirk. He had a reptile appearance. Bright green scales covered his entire body, and his long purple hair didn't help either. You filthy creature. You think you can steal from me? The shop owner yelled at him. The man decided to make a scene outside of his shop, and now they were surrounded by people. Ah, what are you talking about? I wasn't. Shuchi tried to defend himself, but the owner didn't let him speak. Silence. You're not getting away with this. You not only tried to rob me, but you also scared my clients. How unspeakable. The overweight owner continued. The people around began to gossip about him. I should have stayed home. They're always like this. Always judging me by how I look. It was frustrating. Nobody has ever believed me. What's happening here? A new voice stopped his train of thoughts. When the reptile man looked up, he found a boy with cat features. Have I seen him somewhere? Shuchi thought. The kid looked familiar. This abomination tried to steal a game from my store. The owner spoke. Shuchi noticed the twitch of the boy's eyes when the man said abomination. Is that true? The kid asked him. That caught the reptile man by surprise. Of course not. Don't try to lie, you monster. The store owner interrupted him, but he was also interrupted. Shut up, will you? The boy snapped at the overweight man. I don't like one bit how you refer to him. He is a person and deserves to be treated with respect. And let him talk, for God's sake. We need to hear him before throwing any verdict in the air. Being scolded so harshly for someone half your age has to suck. Some of the spectators gave a step back or looked down in shame. I ask again. Was that true? No. I have the money right here. Shuchi showed him the cash in his hand. He was still a little bit stunned from when the kid defended him. This guy just looked at me and began to make a scandal. I see. What do you have to say about it, sir? Izuku asked the owner. His emerald eyes were burning through him. If he lied, the catboy would know right away, and the owner knew. That was why he kept silent. I'll take your silence, as if what this man right here told us is true. A frown appeared on his face. So, you wrongly accused someone just because of his appearance. Is this really acceptable in the mall? I should talk to the manager about it. Because I think this is not the way of treating any of your clients. No. Please, wait. The owner stopped him. I was wrong, I'm sorry. This won't happen again, I know. I give you that game for free, as an apology. He turned to Shuchi. The reptile frowned. You know what? No, I don't want your pity. Just take the money. He shoved it on the man's belly while taking the game. I won't come here ever again. And with that, the multitude began to scatter. Thanks for helping me, Shuchi said to the catboy. Don't worry about it. Izuku smiled at him. Though I can't believe people like him still exist. I have to do something about it for a better world. He muttered the last part. Anyways, thanks again. The reptile man bowed, then turned around to go home. He was really happy that at least there was one person who didn't judge him, as everyone else did. Izuku turned around too, just to find you there smiling at him. He looked at the sight in shame. Sorry, you have to see me like that. Ah, what are you talking about? That guy deserved it. She giggled. Still, I hope I could have done it without getting angry. He picked up the bags at her sides and began to walk. Let's go. This is everything, right? Before he could make it any further, he was pulled into a hug from behind. What am I going to do with your maturity and cuteness? Takeyama said while squishing him to finally rest her chin on top of his mossy hair. You, what are the other people going to think? I like you. That froze him. And I'm not joking. It happened in the blink of an eye. She unexpectedly fell for him. There was something about him that was just that great. I wasn't expecting this, Izuku confessed. Ha. Weren't the signals clear enough? She asked. Well, yeah. But we men tend to think that whatever a woman does is a signal, and then we end up getting crushed. You can't blame me also, this is a first for me. A woman's confession. Izuku was trying his hardest to not freak out. So I'm your first. That gave her some joy. Also, am I not too young? Izuku asked. Don't get me wrong, I'm not rejecting you or anything. I know. You're still a minor. She trailed off. Damn, why do you have to be so mature on the inside and not outside? Grow up faster, will you? That's not how age works, you. A droplet of sweat went down his temple. The typical you also, why tell me this if I'm still a minor? To get the point across. I wouldn't be surprised if there are other women feeling the same as me for you. Izuku didn't think that was possible. And I won't be surprised if there will be more in the years that will take you to be legal. Izuku couldn't help but think that the last phrase sounded wrong. So, this is like a declaration of war for you to bear in mind. She finally let go of the hug. Let's go home. Why does that have a different meaning for me right now? Izuku asked while walking. So you're considering leaving me? You could be my house husband. You're practically already. You teased. Izuku just stood silent while trying to hold his blush. Women are men's downfall, yet he could help but smile. And the only one worth the risk. He couldn't believe his first confession was so unceremonious, but that was who Yu Takeyama was. The new month has come, and there are only 2 weeks left until the entrance exam. I'm lost. Where was that shop? Izuku looked at the paper in his hand. He was on the west side of Musatafu because May had sent him to buy a rare tool for one of their babies, but he couldn't find it anywhere. It may give the wrong address. Seriously, where is he? Abruptly stopped when his ears picked something. He began to look around frenetically. Someone is crying. Where what he had heard was sobbing. His task of finding the shop was forgotten immediately. When he picked the direction of the source, he rushed to it. He found a little girl, probably around 4 years old. She had brown hair tied into pigtails and was wearing a yellow dress. She was sitting while hugging her legs, sobbing. Multiple questions popped in his head. Why was she crying? Was she hurt? Where were her parents? Did someone do this? Eck. He crouched on one of his knees, kept his claws hidden, and reminded himself of not showing much of his fangs. The last thing he wanted to do was scare her. Hello? Are you okay? The girl stopped sobbing and raised her head to look at him. She stood there, silent. Are you hurt? Do you need any help? He smiled at her. I can't find mom and dad. Sniff. She finally talked. So, she is lost. Well, at least it is not something worse. He let out a mental sigh. Want me to help you find them? Her sandy yellow eyes lit up when she heard that. Would you help me find them, big bro? Of course. I'm a hero after all, not a pro one, but I like to think I'm one. And a hero would never let someone cry. Izuku smiled again, and so did she. I'm Izuku. What's your name? Instead of extending a hand to help her get up, he extended his tail. It was less scary and a lot fluffier. He was really proud of his tail. Hikaru. She grabbed his tail and got up. Whoa, so fluffy. She patted his tail. Then, Hikaru-chan, shall we go and find your parents? The little girl nodded happily. Though, I don't even know where to start. And I don't know this part of the city too well. Izuku was conflicted. Before he could ask the little girl where she saw them last time, someone else spoke. Hey, do you want a hand with that, fam? Izuku and Hikaru looked at the newcomer. It was a girl in a high school uniform. Izuku read the logo which said, Shiketsu High School. Wait, that's the second best hero academy just behind UA, Izuku thought. The young woman had fawn-colored hair that reached just below her shoulders and large dark brown eyes. She had noticeably full, plump, and glossy lips and a figure that most girls, young and old, would kill to have. On top of her head, she was sporting Shiketsu's signature hat. It made sense to find a student from said high school when it was located in this part of the city. Yes, I would actually appreciate it. I don't know my way around this area. Izuku answered the question. Cool. I, like, totes know this area. She smiled. It would be pretty bad if people suspected you of going around with a little girl alone. I guess you're right. Thanks. He returned the smile. She talks weirdly. I like it. No props, my dude. Though now that I look at you, the young woman began to eye him up and down. Yep, I don't think anyone would suspect you even without me. He and the little girl shared a confused look. Sorry, I don't get it. Now the fawn-haired girl was the one who had a confused look on her face, just to be replaced by a smirk of amusement a second after. OMG, don't tell me. You actually don't know who you are. The confused look on the catboy was all the answers she needed. OMG, that's so funny. LMAO. I'm sorry, but I seriously don't know what you're talking about, Izuku informed her. I'm talking about this. The girl took out her phone and shoved it onto Izuku's face. Izuku noticed that Hikaru wanted to see too, so he crouched for her. When he saw what it was on the screen, his mind was blown away. "What?" he shouted. The internet page was titled Izuku Midoriya's Fan Club. And there were more than 2,000 people in it. It also was titled The People's Hero. "Oh, big bro is amazing," the little Hikaru said with sparkles in her eyes. Izuku scrolled down. Apparently, this fan club was founded when he saved that floating baby and was expanded with other stuff about him. There was a video of the commercial he did, where most likely they got his name from. There was also a video of when he helped that lizard dude in the mall, and apparently, someone uploaded photos of when he and Kirishima entered that burning building, months back before this page was created. The pictures were only of him and not Kirishima. He thought his red brother deserved some recognition as well, but he was glad that at least he wouldn't be dragged into this mess. "Now you get it. You're famous, my guy," the Shiketsu student stated. He was especially famous among females due to him appearing almost naked in the commercial, though she couldn't say that to him, or else she would have to confess she was also one of them too. There is even a chat where people discuss your heroic deeds and compare them to the ones of other heroes. All of this was too much to process. He didn't know what to do. "Oh, I got an idea," the young woman said while taking back her phone. "Say CHESE," she posed with a peace sign while taking a selfie of them. "Cutie pie, can you tell me your name?" she asked a little girl while taking a photo of her alone. "Hikaru," she answered nervously. The student began to type furiously on her phone. Izuku, on the other hand, didn't like that. This was not the time for taking pictures. However, before he could protest. And done. She gave him her phone again. It was a new post. It read, "Look who I found in the street." And helping a little girl nonetheless. "Man, I'm telling you, he's too pure for this world." Then appeared the selfie of them. "Can you believe he didn't know we existed? LMFAO. He continues reading. "Also, this little angle right here is Hikaru." It showed her picture. "She's lost and we're going to find her parents. If anyone knows something about her, can you let us know? It would be of great help. Wish us luck. Love ya." She finished with 3 kiss emojis. Now he couldn't be mad at her after seeing what she did. The answers were immediate. Some of them wanted to say hello to him, others were jealous of the girl, but everyone apologized for not knowing anything about the girl. Some of them tried to research about her, but to no avail. That's too bad," the girl said, disappointed. "Well, that means we should do this the old-fashioned way. Don't worry, we're going to find them," she reassured the little girl. "BTW, my name is Kami Utsushimi. Just call me Kami. Good to meet ya." Kami was very cheerful and bubbly. Izuku smiled. "You probably already know, but I'm Izuku Midoriya." "Izuku is fine then. Nice to meet you too, Kami-senpai." He extended his hand which she shook enthusiastically. "We should also look for a police officer to help Hikaru find." "No." The little girl interrupted him. "I don't want it. Big bro promised me to find them together." Izuku crouched and patted her head. "Okay. A hero never breaks their promises, so I will help you find them no matter what." After that, they began their quest. They play with a little girl on their way to keep her happy. From others' perspective, if you took out the fact that they were teenagers, they 3 looked like a family. An hour of search became 3, and soon the hopes of finding the parents became grimmer and grimmer until… "Ah!" the little girl exclaimed from her spot at the top of Izuku's shoulders. "Mom and Dad work here." She pointed at a little commercial street. Izuku and Kami smiled at each other. They walked through the street while Hikaru called for her parents. At some point, the little girl remembers where their shop was located. When they arrived, it was closed. In fact, it didn't seem to have opened in a long time. Amy began to soothe the little girl while Izuku stood there asking himself questions until his ears caught something. It was the gossip of people who saw them. Some thought they looked like a couple, others thought that they were too young to have a daughter and disapprove of them, and others. Izuku's eyes grew in horror, but he played it cool. "Amy-senpai." The 2 girls turned their heads to look at him, but his eyes were covered by his hair. "You should go home. It's getting late and I would hate it if you were to go to your house alone. I can help Hikaru to find her parents on my own." "Eh? But I thought you didn't know your way around," she tried to protest. "I already learned it. And besides, I think I know where her parents are," he said. The Shiketsu student knew something wasn't right, but she couldn't refuse for some reason. She just stood there, watching them leave the commercial district. Kami bit her lip and began to jog after them. Her words. Izuku stopped at an empty children's park. He entered it and sat down on the ground and put the little girl on his lap. "Big bro?" she asked, confused. "Hey, Hikaru-chan, can you tell me where you live right now?" That question caught her by surprise, but instead of answering, she looked down in embarrassment. You live in an orphanage, right? The little girl refused to look him in the eyes. Amy, who was behind a tree listening to them, covered her mouth to suppress a gasp from leaving it. Why did you escape? The catboy asked. This was the reason why she didn't want to be left with a police officer. Because everyone said that mom and dad abandoned me. She yelled. They said they didn't love me. I want to prove they're wrong. Everyone is wrong. She realized she just lashed out at the only person who was helping her, and regret overtook her face. I'm sorry. Please don't hate me. Izuku placed a hand on top of her head. There's no way I can hate you. He smiled at her. So, no one has told her he wanted to clench his fist, but right now wasn't the moment. He didn't know how to do what came next. Hikori, your parents, where he bit his bottom lip. They were attacked by a villain a month ago, and they didn't sigh. He stopped for a second. She needs to know. So, spit it out. Even if she hates you for it, he pushed himself. They died. He finally said it. He had heard it all from the people in the commercial district. No wonder why he couldn't find the shop which sold the tools he was looking for. It was from their shop. From Kami's eyes, tears began to fall, but she refused to cry. Now she knew why Izuku didn't want her to be there. No, you're lying. Big bro is a big liar. She screamed while tears began to come out of her eyes as she hit him with her tiny fists. I'm sorry, Izuku apologized. He wanted to tear up, but he couldn't, not now. He hugged her as her cries became louder and louder. I'm so sorry for not being there to save them. He apologized again. The catboy perfectly knew it was impossible for him to be there to save them, but it was still frustrating to know that even right now, there were people out there suffering and without anyone to help them. Did mom and dad really love me? That question almost crushed his heart. He only could assume they were never at home. He immediately opened his mouth to say yes, yet the words didn't come out. He didn't want to give her empty words of hope. It was so frustrating. I want to save her, I want to help her. No, I need to help her. Then, a foreign image came to his mind. An image of people he didn't recognize, people he hasn't met in his life. Yes. He said. Yes, they loved you with all their heart. Those words came out without him knowing he was saying them. Really? How do you know? The little girl asked. Because I know your parents, Izuku told a lie. Was that really a lie? Your mom's name is, and your dad's name is. They look like he described two people he didn't know about. That's mom and dad. The little girl exclaimed. Yeah. And he began to tell her about her parents. What they did. Their antics. And how much they loved her. How do I know all of this, he asked himself. The images played in his head like a movie. And why does it hurt so much? Something inside of him really hurt, like if something was being burned. It hurts. It hurts. It hurts. But where does it hurt? Why does it hurt? He didn't know. Even though he was suffering an indescribable pain on the inside, on the outside he continued smiling while telling everything he knew about those parents he hadn't met. Making the little girl happy. Nico was covering her ear, trying to not listen to his screams of pain. She knew the reason for all of this, but she couldn't do anything about it right now. The feline could only wait for it to be over. Soon it did not. Unknown to the three people in that park, Izuku's tail had changed. From the middle to the tip, it looked like it was made of green ominous fire, flickering to the wind. An hour and a half later. Izuku paused for a second and then smiled again. This collar was from them when Midoriya touched a bell on his neck. He could see Midnight buying it from their shop. They sold a wide variety of things. The catboy took it off and put it around her wrist. It has a charm, you know. The little girl looked at the bell with wonder. Whenever you feel alone, make the bell sound, and you could feel your father and mother by your side. The core made it sound immediately, and for some reason, she felt warm. The wind blew next to her ears, and she was able to hear a whisper. It said, farewell, my dear. As long as we don't forget them, the people we love are not gone, Izuku said. Uncontrollable tears began to pour down her cheeks. She clutched his shirt tightly and began to cry. The boy hugged her as he contemplated the orange afternoon sky. I wish someone was there too when my world crumbled. At long last, the internal pain was gone. When was the last time I heard Dad's voice? When was the last time I saw his face? After some time, Izuku stood up with the girl in his arms. She had cried herself to sleep. The catboy then walked to a tree. Amy-senpai, do you know where her orphanage is? He asked the tree. So, you knew the Shiketsu student came out. Tears were still in her eyes. It wasn't my intention. She swiped her tears away. I'm sorry you had to see me like that. Before she could properly apologize, Izuku was already nuzzling his forehead against hers. His hands were busy patting her, and his tail felt sore for some reason, so he used the only thing available to soothe her. There's no need to apologize. Senpai is a kind person, it can't be helped. The only kind person here is you. Kami thought she wasn't embarrassed for his actions, it wasn't their intention. You know that could have gone a lot worse, right? She could have ended up hating you. She talked, already calm. Yeah, I'm conscious about it. He said, giving a smile to the dormant girl. But that caught the young woman's attention. If I end being hated. Even if I end up being the villain of the story. As long as they can have a happy ending, I'm fine with that. It doesn't sound that bad, don't you think? He spared her a smile. It was then and there that Kami realized something. Early she said he was too pure for this world, as a joke, but now she couldn't think of that as such. After a little walk, they spotted the place they were looking for. An old nun was on the gate, looking very worried. Her worry faded away when she saw the girl in his arms. Good evening, sister. We found Hikaru, so we brought her back. Izuku spoke. Oh, thank goodness. We were so worried. The nun said, rushing towards them. Hey, Hikaru, wake up. We're here. The catboy patted her cheek gently. After wiping away her sleepiness, she stood next to the nun. Thanks for everything, big bro, she smiled. Will I see you again? The green head crouched and petted her head. Of course, I'll come and play from time to time. And that's a promise, and a hero. He pulled out his right pinky. Never breaks his promises. The little girl intertwined her pinky with his and smiled. I'll totes come and play too, pinky promise. Kami did the same. Now, Hikaru, go inside. It's late, go straight to bed. The nun told the little girl. The infant nodded and ran back at the building, then stopped on her track, turned around and waved at them. Big bro, big sis, bye bye. Izuku and Kami waved back. When she turned around to go inside, Izuku's eyes grew in astonishment as two figures made out of a green mist appeared next to the little girl. It was a man and a woman. They both bowed to him as some kind of thanks, then they began to fade away. The mist entered the bell on the little girl's wrist. He looked around, but apparently, he was the only one who saw that. What was that? I can explain, but I'm not too tired now. See you tomorrow. Nico responded just to fall asleep afterward. Thanks again for bringing her back. The nun bowed. I'll wait here for the person who went out searching for her. Have a good evening. God bless you. Izuku nodded. Thank you. Also, sister, she already knows about her parents. I know she wasn't told to prevent her pain, but kids are not stupid, they need to know what is truly happening. The sister bowed again, as an apology. In 3 years, when I become a true hero, if she's still here, I'll take her with me, along with everyone who remains here. That's a promise. The nun who was still bowing shed a tear. Izuku then turned to his companion. Well, I think here is where we depart, Kami-senpai. He said to the Shiketsu student. In response, she hooked her arms with his right. You said you would hate to send me alone so late, right? I guess I said that, didn't I? Izuku smiled. Oh, I know. How about we have a date? It would be so lit. Eh? Right now? He couldn't believe her words. Of course. This is gonna be so sick, fam. Let's go. We didn't have all night. She began to pull him away. Let's not do something outrageous, okay? He began to sweat. The catboy couldn't help but think that yet another problematic girl had appeared. After they were gone, a figure ran towards the nun and stopped while panting. Sister. Do you know anything about Hikaru? Did she return? The voice of a woman spoke. Hanako. Yes, she was just brought back safe and sound by some people. The nun responded with a smile. Really, thank goodness, the woman let out a sigh of relief. If someone dared to do something to the little girl, she would tear the person's heart in the next few days. I need to see her. She and the sister rushed inside. When she entered, some of the kids who were still awake lit up when they saw her. Dusty Ni-chan. One shouted while running towards her. She picked the kid up. Hey, I told you not to call me that. She smiled nonetheless. But we gave you that cute nickname. A girl complained. Dusty Ash sounded cute, but it was still the name of a villain. The white-haired woman went to see the girl she had spent all day looking for around the city. Thank goodness all her stress was blown away when she saw the girl sleeping soundly. Hanako, you should sleep here tonight. The nun said. No, don't worry, sister. The boys and I are still working on a project, so I need to go back. The white-haired woman declined with a smile. Also, do you need anything? Clothes for the kids, toys, do you have enough food? You know money, it's not a problem. No, don't worry. The sister declined. You three are always working so hard. Without your help, I don't know where this place would be. Don't say that. You know this is our only true home. We can't repay you and this place enough. Ash reassured her mother figure. Well, I guess it's time to leave. After she said goodbye to the nun and the kids, she went out and took out her phone. Hey Ash. Gust Boy answered. Did you find the little cringe nugget, or do we have to go out to look for her too? The boss was threatening to burn the city if something happened to her, and I don't think he was joking. No, that won't be necessary. Someone found her and brought her back safe and sound. I'm going back, so tell the boss. She hung up the call. Oh, I didn't ask the sister for the person who saved Thicc or whatever, I'll do it next time I come. I need to reward that person somehow though. With that final thought, Dusty Ash went back to her work. Izuku arrived home after his quick date with Kami. Izuku, welcome back. His mom came to greet him. She was immediately wrapped into an embrace. Izuku, what happened? Is there something wrong? She freaked out. I just wanted to hug you, I love you, mom. His words calmed her down as she hugged him back. I love you too, Izuku. I need to make a call. The boy ended the embrace and went to the phone. After putting the number in and a few minutes of waiting, someone picked it up at the other end of the line. Hello? Hey dad, Izuku answered. There was a pause at the other end. Izuku, hey. How is my little hero doing? Man, I couldn't even recognize your voice. Hisashi Midoriya was excited. I wanted to hear your voice, the catboy said. Yeah, me too. You sound like you have really grown up. Did something happen? Even after all these years, even though they just talked for mere seconds, Hisashi could already tell that something had happened to his precious boy. That was just how being a father worked. I got a quirk. Izuku informed him. There was another pause. Wait, what? You got a quirk, what is it? Can you breathe fire like me? Izuku couldn't help but laugh, his father was more of a child than him. The catboy spent the rest of the night catching up with his father. Also, Inko spent the night trying to stop crying over how much her baby boy has grown. The next day Izuku woke up in his bed like every other day, yet something was wrong. I don't want to move, it's their way to not live, but to not die, either. He didn't want to do anything. Yes, and it's called a coma. Things you were really close to entering, you dumbass, Nico yelled at him. Why the sudden aggression? And what are you talking about? Even thinking was tiresome. Oh great. You don't even have any idea. That's just great. The feline wanted to tear apart this kid she loved so much. Yesterday you broke my lock in order to make that little girl happy. She let out a sigh, trying to calm down. Do you remember when I told you there were other abilities of our quirk? Well, yesterday you unlocked one just by pure power of will. And which one? He really couldn't care less for some reason. Maybe this ability had something to do. People, or in this case humans, tend to associate us, felines, with death and other supernatural stuff. For example, cats that had predicted the death of people better than any machine, how we tend to see things nobody else can. I mean, some humans even think we keep their houses safe from bad spirits and all that. She explained, not very clearly due to her being tired too. So, I can interact with spirits, and I did that yesterday with Hikaru's parents. That's why I knew all that stuff about them. It's that he asked lazily. Yeah, you even enchanted the bell for them to accompany her. That explained what he saw last night. He was somehow proud of himself. But by doing so, you burn your vital energy. Do you remember that burning sensation? Well, it was that. It will leave you with no energy after it ends. It didn't happen yesterday because I used mine to compensate and allow you to get to your bed. The feline explained. I don't think I can do it again. Sounds pretty risky. Well, not really. Even though I said vital energy. You aren't at risk of dying. After a long rest, it will recharge again. That's why you don't want to do anything right now, and the worst it can get it's for you to enter a coma until you recharge. And how much would that be? He asked. Don't really know. Also, if something like this happens again, and I mean another ability or something similar, check your tail, which will change depending on what you're doing. Yesterday, for example, it changed into a green flame, indicating your energy being burned. She finished. Oh, so that's why it felt sore afterward. Well, I guess it's just lazing around for me today. Now he understood why cats were always napping. If he was more awake, all this conversation would have him astonished at such amazing ability and probably analyzing its usages for hero work. He'll do that later. However, as if the world was against the idea of him resting, his door burst open, revealing a very anxious Inko Midoriya. Izuku, you got a letter. She informed her son. Can you leave it on my desk? I'll check it later. He responded, not even bothering to move from his position. It was too much work. It's from UA High School. Inko blurted out. Izuku Midoriya was awake now. It has been an hour since he got the letter and he still hadn't opened it. He was too busy killing himself over the possibilities of why he received a letter now when they were still 2 weeks for the exam. Just open it already, goddammit, Nico yelled out of impatience. He did. There was a little disc inside. When he placed it on his desk, it activated, projecting a hologram. There was a creature like a mouse, bear, something wearing a waistcoat and matching dress pants. Hello, Izuku Midoriya-kun. I am Nezu, the principal of UA High School. The rodent spoke, introducing itself. I'm sure you're wondering why we sent you a letter. Well, let me explain. Nezu said, cheerfully. Well, you see. You, Izuku Midoriya-kun, are an exceptional case, or rather unique case, which we have in our hands. That took the boy's attention. As of right now, you're registered to take the entrance exam at our school, which is going to take place in 2 weeks. However, this is the unique part. You, Izuku Midoriya-kun, have also been recommended to our school. Wait, what? That didn't make sense. He recommended it. Was this some kind of prank? I'm sure you're confused about this. Nezu continued. You see, people normally get recommended through academics or physical grades from a renowned middle school, but also through the influence of one of their family members. Be that because their heroes or people really important. The rodent informed him. We are fully aware that your grades, as of right now, are the best in your school, academically and physically, but your school, it really embarrasses me that these are the kind of rules we have. Also, in your family, there is nobody who is or was a pro hero. Then why am I recommended, he thought. He wasn't mad or anything, just confused. However, you were recommended to us by a pro hero. What? Not only that, but 2 other pro heroes also recommended you. Making those 3 important people recommending the same person. He paused and smiled. We would be making a grave mistake if we were to ignore something like this. That's why we have decided to accept it. Wait, who were they? Do I know them? Wow, you're denser than a rock, Nico said nonchalantly. That's what brings us to our current problem. We would like to know if you want to take the normal entrance exams as it was programmed, or do you want to take the recommended students exam? Please, send us an answer as soon as possible. Thank you very much for your time, Izuku Midoriya-kun. We'll be waiting for your answer. And with that, the disc shut down, leaving a very confused Izuku. 3 days later at UA High. The principal Nezu was walking with a content smile on his face through one of the many corridors of the academia. After arriving at his destination, he entered a meeting room where really nice jazz music was playing to light up the ambience. Ah, I'm glad all of you made it in such short notice. The rodent said, greeting all his colleagues. Every teacher was present in their seats. That's fine, but we would like to know why you called us. The blood hero. Vlad King spoke. Yes, is it something important? The pro hero ectoplasm agreed with his fellow teacher. Oh, no. It's nothing like that. This is just about one of the examinees who, after a short explanation of his situation, he gave us an answer I didn't see coming. So, I'd like to have your opinion on the matter and if you approve of it or not. Nezu explained while scaling the desk. Everybody in the room perked up at that. Something that not even Nezu foresaw. Then, this needs their full attention. To be honest with all of you, I'm thrilled and I'm in favor of the idea, but I'd like all of you to be with me in this decision. The rodent spoke while placing a disc on the center of the desk and then going to his seat. To give you a quick, I told him to give us an answer about which exam he was going to take, and he said, well, I'll let him explain it to you. He pushed a button of a remote in his hand. The hologram was displayed for everyone. Hello. It's this working? I followed my instructions, so it should be working. A boy with cat features appeared. Izawa's face winced for a second when he recognized the boy. However, he wasn't the only one. Young Midoriya, Izuku All Might in his deflated form, and Midnight shouted at the same time. Oh, so you know him? Izawa questioned them while Nezu paused the video. Yes, I met him before. All Might scratched the back of his head. How did he allow that to slip? Well, he is famous after he saved that floating baby all those months back. Nomuri was also embarrassed. You two sounded like you know him on a personal level. Shouta pressed further. I made a mistake a while back regarding the boy right here. We became acquaintances after I apologized. The symbol of peace confessed. After some turns of events, I took it upon myself to correct his reckless behavior. That's all. Midnight told her side of the story. What I'm asking is not that. Eraserhead corrected himself. My intention is to know if you two were part of this little group who recommended him. It would be very unprofessional if it was the case. We didn't do such a thing. The two heroes answered at the same time with a straight face. Well, let's calm down. Also, they weren't who recommended him, Izawa-kun. If you go by their reaction, then you can see they are really surprised at this turn of events. Nezu intervened. Yeah. The voice hero. Present Mick let his presence be known. He was taking his good time for it. What's wrong, Eraser? You're not often like this? He questioned his friend. Ah, I know. It's because he's a cat, isn't it, man? You really like those little furballs. Yamada nodded to his flawless logic. It's completely the opposite, Izawa answered. I was present at the floating baby incident. And this kid was nothing but trouble. He made my job 10 times harder, and I agree with Kayama about his reckless behavior. So, yeah. I'm not quite fond of this problem child. If he's just going to cause trouble wherever he goes, then I rather he doesn't become a hero. Wow. Such a harsh man. Mick shrugged like it couldn't be helped. Midnight almost yelled at the man who knew nothing about Izuku, but Nezu didn't let her. Well, shall we continue? When everyone nodded, he pressed the play button. Thanks for your words, Principal Nezu. And I'm really flattered that this opportunity has presented itself to me, and I'm conflicted. I want to take the normal entrance exam like some friends of mine, but I also want to take the opportunity that other people see me worthy of having. That's why Izuku looked at the camera with determination. I would like to take both exams, as a challenge to myself. The video was paused. There you have it. This hasn't happened even once throughout us history. And that's why I want your opinion on the matter. Nezu said with a smile. Everyone was surprised beyond belief. Midnight, in particular, was biting her lips and fidgeting with her legs. A little blush was present on her face. This is bad. If you keep acting so cool I may actually fall for you, Izuku. All the teachers began to discuss the matter at hand, and soon after, the room went silent. All of them raised their right hand and spoke. We agree with Izuku Midoriya to take both exams. I disagree. The jazz music in the background stopped. All the heads snapped in the direction of the person who said that. Surprisingly or unsurprisingly, it was Shouta Izawa. Midnight slammed her hands against the desk. Did he kill your family or something? Why are you against it? She was a little more than furious. The other teacher went silent. None of them were that stupid to get in the way of a maddened woman. I'm not saying that he cannot take both. I'm saying that it's simply not enough. If he wants this to be a real challenge, then how about if he doesn't pass both exams, he won't be accepted? Izawa said. Why? Nomura yelled again. For someone who claims to be logical, you're being very irrational right now. Settle down, please. Nezu intervened. And actually, Izawa-kun. I don't think there is a problem with your request. Everyone looked at the principal in a strange way. He just continued the video. And if I don't pass both exams then, please, don't accept me. Izuku said. I want to feel that I deserve to be in the UA High. Thanks for your attention. And if this is not possible, then I'll take the normal entrance exam. And with a bow from the kid, the recording reached its end. Midnight jolted on her seat while a little stream of saliva went down her mouth. She had to admit that she was a little moist down there. All Might and Vlad King, who was at her left and right, respectively, cringed away from her. They already knew about her antics when teens acted cool, but this was going to a whole new level. Jesus Christ, woman, All Might thought. You need Jesus in your life, woman, Vlad King also thought. Will that be enough, Izawa-kun? The principal asked his colleague. No. Shouta said with a straight face. If it wasn't because All Might and Vlad King had a very good reaction time, Midnight would be over Eraserhead right now, strangling him. And even though All Might was in his buff form, he was still having problems restraining the woman. Izawa, on the other hand, was smirking at her reaction with amusement. He didn't know what got into the woman, but this was the perfect payback for enlisting him as a teacher against his own will all those years back. I'm not saying he should do more. But to be honest, the last thing I want, it's to have him in my class. So, unless he gets first place in at least one of the 2 exams, I want this problem child to be placed with another teacher. He said to Nezu. Oh? Bold of you to assume he would be placed in your class. Vlad King voiced his displeasure about his colleague's arrogance. I'm not being arrogant, but going by logic, the most problematic children would be placed with me due to my quirk. And even though his quirk is a mutant type, my quirk can still mess with it. Shouta explained his flawless logic. But if I can get rid of at least one of those burdens beforehand, then I want to take that opportunity. I see, Nezu spoke while contemplating what the others said. Okay, then I allow that, Izawa-kun. Said the teacher nodded in gratitude. However, if he placed first in one of the exams, he's not only going to be placed with you. You will also have to nurture him with whatever he needs on his path to become a hero. If that requires you to take extra hours, then you will do it without complaining. Also, because you're the only one who has been complaining about all of the situation and showing your displeasure for one of our possible students, then if he gets first place, you also will have to do something you wouldn't normally do, as a punishment. You cannot demand without giving, so I hope you agree with all of this. The principal finished. Shouta's sweat dropped for a moment, but nodded nonetheless. Everyone turned to look at Midnight, who had a smug on her face. You're going to regret this, Eraser. It's not that easy to get first place. I like my odds. He countered. Then it's settled. Nezu announced. Izuku Midoriya will take both the normal entrance exam and the recommended students exam. You can go now. Izuku was 2 days away from the recommendation entrance exam, and after that he had another 2 days for the normal entrance exam. So, he decided to relax for now. And what was better than a picnic to see the cherry blossoms bloom? Unfortunately, there was no one of his friends to make him company. Ejiro had more training than ever with All Might due to the proximity of the exam. Mei was working on an important baby. The pro heroes he knew had hero duty. Kami had plans with her friends. Mom had work. Mirio was in his internship. And Toga, well, better not call her to come to a place with so many people around. I made a ton of food that I cannot finish myself. The catboy said while looking at the pink flowers. He was on a great spot, just under the bigger cherry tree around. Well, at least I always have you by my side, right, Nico? He asked his faithful companion. Snore snore, that was her response. He just contemplated the sky with a straight face. Reality is often disappointing. Something caught his attention. It was some type of commotion. There were 2 guys talking to 2 girls who didn't look too fond of the attitude of the guys. There were also 2 kids involved. Izuku focused his hearing on them. Come on, we can have some fun, the 3 of us. One of the guys said. Your friend can babysit your siblings for some time. I already said no. So, please leave us alone, Ribbit. One of the girls grabbed the hands of her 2 siblings. By the sound of a groan that came out of the man, Izuku could easily predict where this was going. Are you seriously going to do this in the middle of the day with so many people around, he asked in his mind. He looked around, but no one looked like they were going to interfere. But the frown, the man opened his mouth, however, he never had the opportunity. Hey! A shout caught everybody's attention. They turned around to see a catboy sitting next to a cherry tree on a small hill waving his hand at them. Girls. Over here. He shouted again. What took you so long? I've been waiting for an hour. Now, Izuku could only wait and see if they took the opportunity. Both girls and kids were stunned. It was the big sister who recompassed faster. As you can see, we already had plans, Ribbit. If you excuse us. She pushed her siblings and pulled her friend from the wrist. Sorry for making you wait, Midoriya-kun. She shouted back. Izuku's eyes grew in surprise for a second before going back to his facade. So, she recognized him. Don't worry about it. He said back. The 4 people sat on the sheet. Oh, so they're the siblings I've heard so much about. He continued with his act, those 2 guys were still watching them. Yes, they are Samador and Satsuki. The unknown girl continued to play along, introducing her brother and sister respectively. The girl in question was short of a relatively slender build and had notably large hands. Her appearance was very frog-like, maybe it was her quirk, and that was where her ribbiting came from. Her siblings had the same characteristics. Her hair was long of dark sea green color, reaching all the way to her waist, the ends tied together at the bottom in a bow of hair. Her friend was a normal-looking girl from the shoulder downwards. She had the head and neck of a grey patterned snake with bright yellow eyes and slit pupils. Lastly, she had spiked messy red hair. It was kind of like his. The snake girl had her mouth open while looking at her friend, as if she didn't know her. The 2 siblings were also doing the same. Su-chan, do you know him? You didn't tell me you were friends with him. The friend said in surprise. Yes. Now I have a name to make this farce even more natural. Izuku thought. Meanwhile, the 2 kids and the friend bombarded the frog girl with questions. While they were doing that, he took a glance at the 2 guys who were still there looking at them. Why are they not going away? One of them seemed like he was going to approach them to create more problems. Wait, don't tell me, they crap, do I seriously have to do this? He let out a sigh, preparing himself to get slapped across the face after all of this was done. Actually, the 4 of them looked at him. Su-chan is my girlfriend. Everything stopped then and there. A little and faint blush appeared on the face of Su-chan, while her visage stood straight and calm as ever. Izuku saw the 2 guys click their tongues and walk away. So, they were really waiting for that. When they were out of sight, Izuku's face immediately freaked out, and in a swift motion, his head was now pressed against the sheets. Please. Forgive me. I just said that so those guys would leave you alone. I understand if you want to slap me. He spat those words at the frog girl. Please, raise your head. I'm not mad at you, Ribbit. The girl responded with a smile. Su-chan, what's happening? The snake girl asked her friend in confusion. The 2 kids also didn't understand anything. We really don't know each other. The frog girl answered, surprising the 3. We just pretended to, so that those guys left us alone. But, Wani-chan really looked like she knew you. Little Satsuki said to Izuku. Though you know him too from those videos, remember? The big sister answered for him. Ah, right. We were the ones who showed them to Ni-chan. Samador spoke his mind in realization. Anyway, the frog girl spoke again. Thank you for what you did. No, don't worry about it, Izuku said. I'm Tsuyu Asui, and she is Habuko Mongus. Su is just a nickname. Asui explained. I'm sorry. He apologized again for using the nickname so casually with a blush on his face. My name is Izuku Midoriya, though you already knew that I guess. Don't worry, and thanks again, Midoriya-kun. She bowed a little. But we should get going. Ah, did you come to see the cherry blossoms by any chance? Izuku asked. Yes. Satsuki responded cheerfully. They wanted to come. Tsuyu explained. Well, if you want, you all can't stay. I made a lot of food that I cannot finish by myself anyway. Izuku proposed, but then realized something. Of course, only if you want. I'm not forcing you or anything. He didn't want to sound like those guys from before. No, I'm sorry, Ribbit, Asui said. We wouldn't want to be a nuisance. As she finished that sentence, she saw the look on the face of her siblings. They wanted to stay. On second thought. All the best spots must be taken by now. So please take care of us. She bowed. There wasn't anything she wouldn't do for her siblings. Of course. Izuku smiled at them. I have tea, different kinds of sandwiches, cheesecake, and lemon jelly. He began to take out the different dishes for their display. Please, don't contain yourselves. The catboy was happy that he wasn't alone anymore. I want jelly. Little Satsuki yelled her declaration. I'll take the cheesecake. Samador spoke his mind. I would like some of the sandwiches, Habuko said without taking her eyes from the food. Tsuyu couldn't help but think that they took the don't contain yourselves too literal. She looked at the catboy thinking he would feel a little annoyed, but he was just smiling while serving their meals. She was worrying about nothing. Izuku wasn't only affable, but also very attentive to any of their needs. After finishing a sandwich, the catboy went for the cake. After so many attempts doing it, this one was pretty good if he said so himself. While he took a bite, he noticed that the snake girl whispered something to her friend's ear. The greenhead couldn't help but wonder what they were talking about. He didn't need to wait long. Habuko-chan thinks you're cute. Tsuyu said with a straight face. Tsu-chan, Habuko screamed with a blush on her face. Oh, the deception, the betrayal, woman, you deceived her. She looked at the boy timidly. Boys at her school just got grossed out due to her snake head, however, she came across a blushing catboy. Thanks. Izuku was embarrassed, he wasn't called cute by women very often. Well, his mom did, but that didn't count. Not even you did, so this had a great impact. You're cute too. Wait a second, he thought that saying something back was the right thing, but that wasn't the right call. The snake girl covered a red face, which made him go red too. Nod, you're both cute, Ribbit. Tsuyu said bluntly. They went redder. Yeah. Big brother is cute. Satsuki included herself in the conversation. If someone else said that word again, Izuku would explode. What? No, Aniki is badass. Don't you remember when he saved that baby? He was awesome. Samador said, finishing with a hero pose. That made everyone laugh. The little sister of the three tugged Izuku's shirt while looking at him with puppy eyes, or it would be with tadpole eyes. Big brother, let's play a game. She said. Satsuki. You shouldn't bother him, Tsuyu tried to stop her sister. Sure, Izuku answered with a smile. What do you want to play? The frog girl was surprised. She didn't believe that this boy was that kind. She knew perfectly well how to deal with kids, and most people of her age didn't like them, yet he was a genuine kind boy. Ah. Let's play heroes and villains. I want to be the hero. Samador said, excited. That brought memories to him. The last time the catboy played that was when he was little. Kakin always made him the villain, and he ended with a lot of burns. But I want to be a princess. The little girl said with a pout. I think I know what to do. Izuku said as he got up. The two kids did the same. Just follow my lead. He said. He then instructed the kids to take some distance. They stared at each other for dramatic purposes. Then. Ah ha ha. So, you have finally come to my lair. Prince Amador and Princess Satsuki. The two heroes from the Frog Kingdom. Izuku said with his best impersonation of a classic villain. Not only Tsuyu and Habuko were interested in this act, but apparently everybody else in the vicinity. Yeah. And we're going to put an end to your evil acts. Samador followed while Satsuki nodded profusely with a frown. Oh really? Did you forget? With an evil smile, he did a motion, showing the big sister and her friend at his back. That I have not only kidnapped your sister, Princess Tsuyu, but also Princess Habuko of the Snake Kingdom. Do you really think you can defeat me? The two were caught by surprise. So, they were also in the game. Please save us. Both of them cried. The two kids clenched their fists. How could we forget? Satsuki said in fake anger. After we're done with you, they will be safe and sound. The little brother declared. Oh, so naive, Izuku commented. After I win, I'll force them to marry me, and then I will be the ruler of 2 kingdoms, he revealed his evil plan. But that's enough talking. Let's begin this fight. We'll never let you, Sameter said, as he and his sister began to run in the catboy's direction. Get away with this. Satsuki finished. An epic battle for the future of 2 kingdoms ensued. While the fight took place, the people there made a crowd around them, genuinely entertained by them. Some of them were even recording it on their cell phones. The battle came to an end. As expected of the 2 heroes, Izuku was resting against the defeated cherry tree. The heroes weren't unscathed either. They were both panting on their knees. Izuku held his fake wound on his stomach. I'm glad that you're so strong. Speaking was difficult for him. Maybe you two will be able to truly save them. That last comment impacted not only the 2 heroes, but every spectator who was very into the setting. Ha! What do you mean by that? It's there something worse than you, Sameter asked in desperation. So, you don't know? Well, you're both too young to do so. Izuku said with a pained smirk. What are you talking about? Satsuki wanted to know too. The cat villain contemplated the sky with a nostalgic look on his face. Before you two were born, the Frog Kingdom and the Snake Kingdom were at war with each other. Audible gasps were heard from the crowd. My family lived in the middle of the 2 kingdoms and were caught in the war. The heroes and the 2 princesses pale at that. Don't get me wrong. I never did this out of vengeance. I also grew up hearing the legend of the 2 heroes like every kid, and so I wanted to become a hero myself. I wanted to save the kingdoms. Everyone felt a lump in their throat. But what can an infant do with nobody at his back? The answer was simple. I became something worse than the war. One forced the kingdoms to unite against a greater evil against me. Everyone was terrifying. This didn't take the turn they were waiting for, but they were loving it. Izuku put a little ketchup bag on his mouth and bit. Cough cough, he coughed blood on his hand. All the people freaked out. So, it finally caught up to me, he said. Then he looked at the worried looks of the heroes. What? Don't worry about it. This old illness of mine is just one of the reasons I could never become a true hero. He gave them a weak smile. Where was I? Ah yes, during those ephemeral years of peace, the 2 princesses became friends. He looked at Sayu and Habuko. Yet they were unaware that their kingdoms still hated each other and were plotting against one another in the shadows. The 2 of them were going to be used as tools for the war when they were done with me, so I kidnapped them. I thought that if they won't change their minds, then maybe if I become the ruler, then they wouldn't have an option but to accept peace. Everyone was paralyzed on their spot, holding their breath. But I guess I got a little selfish too. I wanted something for myself too. Izuku confessed. After all these years of being hated by everyone, I forgot something that I wanted to remember. He coughed more blood, ketchup. I wanted to remember what being loved felt like. Tears began to appear on some of the people's eyes. The only thing I remember, it's what Mom said to me once: being loved felt like the caress of cherry blossom petals on the skin. A gust of wind blew at that moment, taking the cherry petals and making them dance to the wind. Everyone was flabbergasted. Keeping his eyes open was difficult. There's only so much a villain like me can do, but you two, the 2 heroes of legends, can do what I could never, so please save them, save the peace, make them smile. That was the last thing he could utter before closing his eyes. A single petal landed on his forehead. Ani-chan, Aniki, Satsuki, and Sameter screamed simultaneously while they began to run to him with tears in their eyes. Izuku sat up with a smile while opening his arms. The 2 kids tackled him. Maybe I took it too far. The 2 siblings shook their heads. This was a lot of fun, Satsuki said. This was the best game of heroes and villains I have played, Sameter exclaimed. I see. Then I'm glad. The catboy smiled. The crowd began to clap their hands and cheer. Everyone except a certain frog girl. Sayu was still in disbelief, not only for what the catboy pulled off, but because her siblings acted so comfortable around him, as if he was their big brother. After everyone calmed down and returned to their own spots, the trio did the same. Little Satsuki looked at Izuku with a smile. Hey, big brother, could you become big sis boyfriend for real? You will make a super cute couple, she stated. And there it was, the last use of the word cute to refer to him, but this time it came with an extra blow. Izuku collapsed on his back while he covered his face, which exploded in a blush. He failed to see he wasn't the only one. The day of the recommendation entrance exam came and Izuku was punctual. After confirming their attendance, they went to an auditorium where the principal Nezu gave them a brief explanation of the exam. Hello everyone. I'm Nezu, the principal of UA. The rodent greeted me. I'm glad all of you made it in time, but leave the formalities for later and go right into the exam. Please pay attention. The exam consists of 3 parts. First is the written exam. You will be assigned to a classroom to take it. There will be a time limit of an hour, so please pay attention to the clock. Needless to say, if we catch any of you cheating, the person in question will be sent home with no possibilities to take the exam ever again. Even though he smiled, everyone saw how serious he was about it. After the exam is over, you will do a practical test which will be explained by the designated teacher. Finally, those who have passed these 2 tests will have an interview with me. Nezu began to laugh maniacally. The examinees were given their classroom to take the written test. Izuku took a look at his surroundings before moving. There were probably 100 students taking the exam. I expected more people. It shows how selective they are. After arriving at his classroom, he sat on his designated chair at the back. Apparently, it would be 10 people per classroom. A good strategy to prevent cheating. When their teacher arrived, Izuku almost went into fanboy mode when he saw the pro hero Cementus, but he was able to restrain himself. Something else caught his eyes. A black spiky ponytail was in the front of the room. The catboy could swear he had seen it before. When the girl turned her head to see the teacher, a memory came to his mind. A memory from when Nico was still with him. A bittersweet sensation came to him. She is Yaoyoi Rozu. The family name finally came to him. So, she's taking the exam too. I wonder if she is. She probably doesn't remember me. If she knows me, it would be for entirely different things. He saw her focused gaze. I should concentrate on the exam too. There's no time for these kinds of thoughts. His emeralds lose a little of their light as they become sharp. Maybe it was the memory of Nico when she was alive, but his mood changed a little. The feline in question was quiet. She didn't like to talk when the subject came to the surface, besides, she would only distract him. The written test was not that hard, but not that easy either. Yaoi Rozu was the first one to finish in an impressive time of half the time given. Izuku finished 10 minutes later, being the 4th to finish. They were dismissed as they handed over their tests. This was the perfect time to talk with the ones who already finished, a perfect time to talk to Yaoi Rozu and see if she remembered him. With a cold look on his face, Izuku turned in the other direction. That bittersweet feeling was still there, and the exam wasn't over. He needed to stay focused. 45 minutes passed, and he along with the others were sent to change clothes for the practical test and meet outside in the designated area. Izuku put on his green tracksuit and stood barefoot. Hey. How are you doing, little listeners? Present Mick announced himself. Izuku covered his ears, it was extra loud for him. The pro hero noticed that, so he decided to contain himself a little. I will be the one overseeing the practical test, so let me tell you what it is all about. He said in a lower tone. The practical test is an obstacle course. Some of the examinees got excited. The participants will race 6 at a time through our course, which is designed so you can't get to the finish line only by running, so you better use everything you got. The use of quirks is allowed, so better get creative. What's not allowed is to mess with other examinees. That would mean a disqualification. Izuku took a look around, he was surprised by the number of people remaining. There's only 24 people with me included. So many failed the written test. Did they take the results so quickly? It showed that the UA wasn't playing around. Okay. Now put these numbers on, and when your number is called, go to the starting line. Mick said while passing them stamps with numbers. Izuku was number 100, apparently, it was the number in the attendance list, and he was the last person to be registered for taking the exam. The first 6 people were called. Izuku tried to make a game to ease his feelings. He tried to guess who would win the race in each group. And this is not easy. All of them look really strong in their own right. His eyes went to one of them in particular. When he saw the smile on the girl's face, he knew it. I guess the winner is number 55. The girl had mossy green hair just like him, and the confident smile told him she had this in the bag. She was wearing a white loose tank top with blue shorts, sporting her sculptural fit body. Start. Mick yelled, firing a fake pistol. Then 55 split her body as she began to float away. Izuku was fascinated by her quirk, it was a shame he didn't have his notebook around to make a page about her. 20 minutes later the second group was called. I'll take my bet on N16. Izuku thought. The guy didn't look like much, but a feeling just told him he had something up his sleeves. N16 had pale skin tone and beige spiked hair, but his most predominant feature was his mouth. His teeth were on the outside, and he had no lips. Start. Present Mick shouted again. Izuku was startled by N16 quirk, whatever that was. The pale teen submerges himself in the ground like it was water. Again, it was a shame he didn't have his notebook. After the time passed, the third group began to be called. Number 41. Mike called the fourth person. Yes sir. A very energetic and enthusiastic young man stepped up. He was very tall and had a great built body with buzz dark brown hair and black eyes. An instant candidate for taking first place. Number 100. Mick shouted his number with a big smile. When Izuku took a step, he immediately felt all the states directed at him. There wasn't a single soul who wasn't looking at him. Hey, isn't he that kid from? Yeah, I know, I wasn't aware he was taking the exam too. The gossip didn't make itself wait. Izuku just ignored them with a gentle smile. Momoyaoi Rozu was astonished. He is that boy from that day. She remembered him completely. Thanks to him making her laugh that day, that important meeting was perfect. She didn't know why everybody seemed to recognize him. She's always been busy, although she remembered something about a green cat boy who did something amazing. Wait, he didn't have the cat features when I saw him last time. Did something happen to him? When she looked at his face, she was mesmerized by his smile and those big emeralds for eyes. She noticed how much he had changed and wondered if it was the same person. Momo caught herself trying to speak to him, but she stopped before anything happened. He probably doesn't remember me anyway. She took a look at his face again and saw his serious eyes. That's right. This is not time to think about such things as that. Focus, Momo, focus. She slapped her cheeks lightly. And lastly, number 23. Mick announced the last examinee. And 23 was a reasonably tall teen whose hair was evenly split into two colors. White on his right side and crimson red on his left. He also had heterochromia, making his left iris a turquoise color, while his right was brownish dark gray. But what took most of Izuku's attention was the large burn scar on the left side of his face. Despite that, he was good looking, though those eyes looked too cold for his liking. Something was immediately obvious for the catboy. Him in the middle of the two biggest powerhouses in the entire exam. Meanwhile, in a control room. Wait a minute. Why is Izuku there? He was supposed to be in the second group. Namuri asked, though she already knew the answer. Any easy you, it was you, wasn't it? She narrowed her eyes at the principal who was drinking tea. I'm completely guilty. He said madly. Did you seriously have to put him against Endeavor's son? She was a little mad, just a little. The kid said he wanted a challenge, right? Aizawa spoke with a creepy smile on his face. Midnight just clicked her tongue as she and the other teacher watched a race that was about to begin. Back at the obstacle course, the 6 participants were ready. Present Mick had the gun up in the air. A big smile appeared on his face. Bang, start. Then 23 took first place by staking ice to propel himself to great speed. Then 41 was surprised by it, but after a second he matched the speed of 23 with a gust of wind around his body. They both looked at each other for a second, thinking that this race was between them. However, shattering their thoughts like a wrecking ball, a green blur surpassed them. They weren't the only ones surprised. No one watching them expected someone to move so fast by just running. The two increased their speed to match the green catboy. However, this wasn't a race in a straight line, and the first obstacle was hurdles. Izuku jumped, skipping several of them in one go. He kept doing the same. Unfortunately for him, this made him slow down a little. Meanwhile, the other two just flew over them with his wind or froze them while going above them, surpassing the catboy. Finishing the first obstacle, they came across the next. The crystal bridge too fragile to endure a person's weight. 41 and 23 crossed it like the last one without any problem. Izuku stopped for a second. He could not cross it so easily, yet he didn't have the time to think, or else he would just lose to them. He saw that the ice stalagmites made by 23 were still there. Extending the claws of his feet, he went for them. Thanks to his speed and claws, he could run through them without touching the bridge. The bicolored-haired teen noticed that. The next obstacle was an abyss, and the only way to continue was to jump through pillars separated by 5 meters each. 41 just continued, as if this didn't face him. 23 made ice bridges from pillar to pillar that would break if someone else tried to use them. Izuku didn't need them anyway. 5 meters jumps were a piece of cake for him. Now 41 was on the lead, but the other two were close. Continuing on the race, the next obstacle was easy to spot. The climb of a little mountain of about 50 meters of height, and then from the top, cross a suspension bridge to another mountain, then another one to finally climb down. Where do they get these things? Izuku asked in his mind. 41, like every obstacle before this one, just propel himself with wind up the mountain. 23 did the same, but with his ice. Is there something for these guys to make them slow down? The catboy was annoyed. He began to climb as fast as he could. 41, or better known as Anasa, stopped at the top and began to walk as fast through the bridge. His quirk was good, but he needed to be close to a solid surface to propel himself, and this bridge wasn't sturdy enough. It wasn't like he could fly, or at least not without a proper suit. So, better safe than sorry here. 23, aka Shoto, did the same when he got to the top. If he used his ice on the bridge, there was a high chance that it would break. So, he opted for the same as 41. When they both were in the middle of the second bridge, they saw the catboy get to the top of the mountain. We still had a fair distance from him. They thought. They were wrong. Izuku began to run through the bridge like a madman, not caring at all that the bridge began to move erratically. Cats had great balance, and he had trained it a little, so he was unfazed by this. They both thought at the same time while hastening their pace. They certainly didn't want to be on the bridge when he arrived. They both began their descent using their quirk, though at a slower pace, being careful about it. Though it was still faster than climbing down. The roar from behind startled them. Before they could react, the catboy surpassed them while running downward still like a madman. The climb down was almost 90 degrees, and this kid was running it down. He was truly insane. When Izuku got to base, he had to rest for a second. Maybe I went overkill there. This was his opportunity to get first, but maybe it wasn't the smart choice. Now he was slower when running. It wasn't a surprise that he was surpassed again so easily by those two. Truly two powerhouses. He had to try harder. The next insanity was a roller coaster. It wasn't actually an obstacle, it was there so the participants got a moment to rest. However, it was necessary to get to the next section of the course. And made out of individual wagons, so whoever got to it first got an advantage. Shoto was the one who got first, but Inasa wasn't that far. They both departed at the same time. Shoto would use this time to treat his frostbite and Inasa to catch his breath. Now they just had to wait for the slow roller coaster to take speed. They thought they couldn't get past now. They forgot that sanity was overrated for the candidate N100. A shadow was cast over them, freaking them the fuck out. With wide eyes, they looked up. There it was. That green catboy jumping over them. Izuku landed on the railroad track in front of Shoto and began to run as fast as he could through them. Wagons are for pussies, Nico yelled in excitement, she couldn't stay quiet anymore. The green had almost lost it. The irony of a cat saying that was priceless. DSK. Clicking his tongue in annoyance, Shoto jumped out of the wagon and began to use his ice again. Inasa was having a blast, the hot-headed way and passion of this catboy to act were awesome, by the end of the day they were going to be friends. He also jumped off the wagon and began to use his whirlwind to catch up. The teachers in the control room couldn't help but think that these three were insanity at its finest. Izuku was the first to arrive at the end of the roller coaster. He was easily surpassed by the other two again. Damn it, he yelled, keeping up with these two monsters was the hardest thing in the world. He has taken any opportunity to get the upper hand, but to no avail. He was too tired. The difference between his physical quirk and these two emitter types was too great. Not giving up, no matter what with those words, he pushed on. The next obstacle was a stone hill with holes. In the first half, pillars of fire came out of the holes in intervals of 3 seconds each. In the second half, there was no fire, but it was covered in slippery ice. Finally the hill ended in a cliff with a little lake at the bottom and continued with a forest. The two powerhouses had to stop their quirks due to the fire pillars. Another opportunity has arisen. Izuku never slowed down, and with swift maneuvering, he dodged the fire and took first place again just to immediately slow down with the ice. He used the claws on his feet to get a better grip, however, he could not move faster or else he could risk it to fall. The other two immediately passed him again when the fire was no more. Crap, he yelled again. Those two monsters didn't even touch the water of the lake when they jumped off the cliff and submerged themselves right into the forest. After finishing with the ice, Izuku, instead of jumping like any normal person, he decided to propel himself from the rock just to fall faster. The water was refreshing, but he didn't have time to appreciate it as he rushed out of the water and entered the forest. Meanwhile, N41 and N23, who were fighting to get the upper hand, arrived at a hard obstacle, if not the hardest of the entire test. The labyrinth cave. At the entrance of the cave, there was a basket with flashlights and a screen with a sign telling that the map of the labyrinth would be shown for 10 seconds when a participant used their fingerprint, only once per examinee. There was also another sign telling them to be careful with rocks falling from the ceiling. This obstacle was a challenge for the mind instead of the body. The two powerhouses couldn't do much but complied and slowed down. Shoto went ahead and ran into the cave after taking a flashlight and looking at the map. Inasa, on the other hand, took his time, he didn't want to make a mistake. After some time, Izuku arrived at the cave too. He took a look at everything. Okay, flashlights, I don't need them. His night vision was better. He heard a chirp coming from inside the cave. Nico smiled when she heard those sounds. You don't need it either. She said. Izuku stopped for a second and then smiled. Okay. He ran inside. The catboy didn't know why she said that, but he trusted her with his life, so he didn't need to ask questions. When he entered, he noticed something. Izuku covered his nose immediately. Ah, what's that smell? It's horrible. When he heard those chirps again, something clicked in his mind. Smile, so they're bats here, I see. He got what Nico said by not needing the map. He would have to endure the stench of guano, but utilizing that, the chirps, and his night vision, he could find the other exit easier than trying to remember the right path. Instead of trusting in his memory, he would trust in nature. So, the catboy ran through the cave taking every turn in the right direction. The NASA was also moving in the right direction when he heard something from behind. The tall young man turned around, pointing his flashlight at whatever made the sound. My eyes. The NASA found the catboy covering his eyes. Ah. I'm sorry. He apologized immediately when he figured he flashed him in the face. He moved closer to see if he could help with something, then noticed something. Hey, where is your flashlight? He asked. I have night vision so I didn't need it, Izuku explained as he rubbed his eyes. Now, Inasa knew how serious it was. Flashing him like that was even worse than to a normal person. Can you continue? Yes, just give me a moment. The catboy answered. That's great. Hey, when this is over how about we become the whirlwind user stopped his sentence when he heard something from above. A rock was going to fall on top of the catboy. Hey, watch out. Izuku opened his eyes and looked up, though he was still blind. He had heard the rock, but he didn't know it was on top of him. Before the rock could touch him, Inasa jumped using his whirlwind to push Izuku out of the way. Cough cough cough, the elemental quirk had lifted dust, and the worst part was that said dust had entered Izuku's eyes. Now he was blinded until he found something to clean them. Hey, where are you? Inasa called for him. My flashlight was smashed, and I don't see anything, can you hear me? Now the two were blinded. Yes, I'm okay. Midoriya yelled the answer. Damn it, what do I do now? How do we get out of here without me? His thoughts came to a halt when something weird happened. Can I see? How a perfect image of his surroundings was in his mind. What kind of sorcery was this? It's not sorcery, they're your whiskers, Nico stated, taking him by surprise. You have never paid them enough attention because you use your other senses more, and on top of that they just look like a tattoo on your cheeks, but they're real feline whiskers. She explained. They are more sensitive than even your hands or mouth, and thanks to that, you can create a three-dimensional image in your mind, as long as there is the faintest of breezes around you. Now Izuku understood something. Excuse me, what's your name? He asked the examinee N41. Ah, I'm Inasa Urashi. Nice to meet you. He had a great smile. Likewise. I'm Izuku Midoriya. Urashi-san, can you create a steady breeze around the cave? I think I can use it to get us out of here. Nasa's smile got wider. Of course. And just call me Inasa. He used his quirk as instructed. Izuku smiled when he could see the cave perfectly. It was like a weird echolocation, but he could see 360 degrees around him. Inasa felt a hand grabbing his wrist. Then you can call me Izuku, Inasa-kun. They would use teamwork to get out. Nobody would ever think of using such a thing in an individual test, but it wasn't against the rules. Now, let's get out of here. The catboy ran while pulling his new acquaintance. Meanwhile, in the control room, Nezu was losing his shit laughing madly along with Namuri. All Might was smiling proudly at one of the candidates for OFA. Izuku may not succeed him, but he was a great person. Shoto had been good on his track, but this was taking longer than he thought. We're close to the exit. The bicolor boy heard a voice from behind. He then saw the catboy pulling the other examinee while his eyes were closed. N41 also had a dumb smile on his face while creating a light breeze. You can follow us if you want. The catboy said while passing by his side with a smile on his face. N41 just gave him a serious look. Shoto was a little shocked, but after shaking his head he decided to run after them. After different turns without even stopping to consider them. The two powerhouses saw the light of the sun. They finally came out to the other side of the forest. The trio came across a river. Actually, the next obstacle was to go up a waterfall from where wood logs were coming down. Thanks. With that word, Shoto used his ice again to move faster. Hey. Wait. We can't leave him behind. Inasa protested. No, don't wait for me, Inasa-kun, Izuku said as he began to clean his eyes with the water. Or else, I'm going to take your place when I'm done here. That startled the tall young man, but then a wide smile appeared on his face. Okay. I'm going to win anyway, Izuku. After saying that, he used his quirk and started moving, chasing after the Son of Endeavor. Izuku was able to see how the ice left by N23 collapsed with a stream of water and Inasa reaching the top of the waterfall. MHA Jet Set Run Dual Mix, Orchestral vs Rock. The green head stood up and contemplated the waterfall. Somehow, he knew he was in the final section of the race. It was all of nothing now. Oxygen entered his body as he readied his muscles. Izuku was shot forward like a bullet. When he arrived at the waterfall, without stopping he began to jump from log to log. He was on the top in no time. Continuing running, he came across the wall of a fortress blocking his path, and like if that wasn't enough, there were explosions going off around it. Izuku didn't stop nor question the sanity of the person who made this course. And taking advantage of his momentum, he jumped over the explosions and ran up the wall, barely reaching the top with his right hand. The catboy jumped to the other side just to find that the last obstacle was a long run with no obstacle whatsoever, and then there was the finish line. The two powerhouses were halfway there. A smile of excitement appeared on his lips as his legs took off. "Are you speed?" Nico saw the opportunity, and she took it. "I'm fast," Izuku answered with a smile. This was fun. Inasa and Shoto were trying to surpass each other when they heard something. They both spared a glimpse behind them. Their eyes widened in surprise. They didn't have an option than to use their quirks at their maximum output, or else the first place was going to be stolen from them. President Mick was waiting for them at the finish line, and he had to admit he was excited. He wasn't the only one, though. The teachers in the control room and the examinees of the previous groups who were there were at the tip of their seats. Time seemed to stop when the trio was at the finish line, revealing the winner. "It's a photo finish," Mick yelled. The one who hit the goal first was number 41 by just a bit, followed by number 23. They almost lost their pants to number 100 though. In the control room, Azawa let out a sigh in relief. Only two of the monster trio stopped. "Hit the brake. Hit the brake. Hit the brake," Nico yelled when she saw Izuku wasn't stopping due to having so much speed. When he tried to do so, he tripped. "Ah," was all that he and Nico could let out. "Ah," was all that President Mick could let out. "Ah," was all that Inasa and Shoto could let out. "Ah," was all that the other examinees could let out. "Ah," was all that the teachers at the control room could let out. Izuku flew for a moment thanks to his inertia. "This is going to hurt." He said in his head. A lot. Nico finished for him. He braced himself for the impact and minimized damage. Ouch. He began to bounce like a rock on the water. Crap. Again. Ouch. Again. Shit. Again. Ouch. Again. I'm not going to curse more than that. And again. The bounce came to an end when his body crashed against the wall. Meanwhile in the control room. "Well, that's my call. I wasn't expecting to do something today, but that kid is as crazy as Nezu." A granny with a big syringe for a cane walked out of the room a little bit grumpy. Two of the examinees ran to aid him. "Oh my god. Are you okay?" the examinee N55 said in worry. "Damn man, what a way to finish it." N16 spoke. "Yeah, go big or go home, I guess," Izuku said sarcastically while sitting up. "And I'm still alive and nothing seems broken, so I'd say I'm okay." He looked up and found they were the two he predicted to get first on their group. They helped him to get up. "Thanks." He looked at Inasa talking with N23. "I'm going to talk to them. I'll see you two in a little." He ran off. "Ah wait. Your head is bleeding." They both shouted to deaf ears. Izuku heard something from N23. "This is an exam. If I pass then that's all that matters." He wasn't even looking at Inasa. "And I never had any intention of competing with you two, got it?" His eyes were too cold even for an ice user. "You're just a nuisance." Nasa's face looked hurt, then his eyes became just as cold. "That attitude isn't very hero-like, don't you think?" They both looked at the person who spoke. Their eyes widened in shock when they saw the state of the catboy. His tracksuit was ripped apart showing multiple bruises and scrapes, there was even blood going down his temple, yet what shocked them the most was his burning glare. "Are you seriously trying to be a hero by treating people like that? What kind of hero does that?" Shoto tried to ignore him. "Ah wait." His glare disappeared when something came to his mind. Izuku grabbed his chin and looked at the sky. "There is a hero with that kind of attitude," he trailed off. "The number 2 hero. Endeavor." Shoto and Inasa froze in place. "Your eyes are just like his," Izuku said. Shoto clenched his fists. Also, Nasa's eyes too for a moment. The tall young man gave a step backward in disbelief. "Are you two trying to be like him?" Such an innocent question hurts like a bullet. "Of course not. There's no way I want to be like him." Inasa and Shoto yelled at the same time in anger. Sorry." The catboy apologized, not expecting them to get angry like that. Those two gritted their teeth when they realized that such anger was just like the one of Endeavor. The three entered into an awkward silence. "Ouch." Izuku screamed when something was pressed against one of his scrapes. "What are you doing standing up, sweetheart?" A little old lady was pressing a huge syringe against his wound. "You're even bleeding through the head. Come and sit down while I heal you." The granny left no room for declining. "You two should also sit down and rest while the last group makes it here," she said to the other two examinees. The monster trio went to a big tent where the others were covering from the sun. Izuku sat on the ground while the elder woman tended his wounds and put a bandage around his head. Finally, the granny gave him a smooch on the forehead, healing him in seconds. Izuku was in awe. "You're recovery girl. So you recognized me that easily?" The old heroine said with a gentle smile. "Here, have some of these, honey." She gave him some gummy bears. "Now, is anybody hurt?" Chio raised her voice asking the other examinees. Everyone swarmed Izuku because he looked like the most approachable of the three powerhouses. "Man, you were awesome," one of them said. "Yeah, you almost got first from all the way back in the long run. You had me thrilling, dude," another person said, almost shouting. "Thanks." Izuku couldn't help but feel flattered. He saw the two who helped him when he tripped over. "Thanks again for helping me. And sorry for running off." "Nah, don't worry." The girl dismissed it with her hand. "I'm Setsuna Tokage, by the way." She introduced herself. "Yuzo Hananuki," the pale young man said. "I'm Izuku Midoriya," the catboy said with a smile. "We know." They both answered at the same time, surprising him. "I see. Does anyone else know?" he asked around. "Yep. Yeah. Dude, you're a legend." The people around him answered. Izuku blushed a little. "Hey Midoriya," Setsuna called for his attention. "Can I pet your head?" Izuku's face got redder. "He's not a pet," Juzo reproached her. "But he looks so fluffy." The green-haired girl gave her reasoning. "I don't mind," Izuku answered. "Though, I have never done this before." Well, he had received head parts from his mother, you were the others. But none of them asked if they could do it. It changed the experience completely. "Then I'll be your first," she said. Every boy there couldn't help but think how wrong that sounded. Izuku got more nervous. Meanwhile, in an unrelated note, the other three examinees of Izuku's group just arrived at the finish line. Nobody even noticed them. Now, Tokage readied her right hand. Eyed at Akamasu. Is he food or something was the collective thought around. Am I food, Izuku thought. A shiver went down his spine when the hand made contact with his head. It felt totally different than when his mother did it. He closed his eyes and leaned his head against the hand, forgetting where he was or who he was. Setsuna's eyes lit up in excitement. He's so fluffy. Now, how about this? She began to scratch below the chin. Aren't you going too far? Juzo asked with concern. Izuku began to purr. These adorable, Setsuna screamed in her head. That finally caught the interest of the pale boy. His hand moved on its own and landed on Izuku's head. He was really fluffy. One by one, the people around took turns to pet him. It was a great stress reliever from the stressful exam. Except for Setsuna, she couldn't take her hands off him. Inasa didn't do it though. He was deep in thought with himself. Boy, could you let him rest a little? Juzo asked the energetic girl. Actually, that's good. Recovery girl intervened while giving gummy bears to anyone who wanted. Cat purrs help to heal multiple things, from broken bones to cope with illnesses, blood pressure, respiratory problems, and the list still goes on. And not only helps the cat, but anybody around them. Is that true? Izuku asked his companion. Yeah, we tend to purr whenever we get hurt to heal faster. I guess you haven't done it due to your human side. Nico explained. I want to adopt him. Setsuna stated while hugging Izuku's head against her upace. It wasn't a surprise that said teen's face exploded in a flash. He's not a lost kitten, he's a person. Juzo again tried to appeal to the girl's logic. They continued talking for a while until something took their attention. Boom. The sound of an explosion from behind the fortress wall made everyone snap their necks. Recovery girl took out a pair of binoculars when she saw an object flying over the wall. She saw a person covered with a bite suit for dogs and a helmet. That's a person. What? Did they fire themselves from a cannon or something? Setsuna commented in disbelief. Judging by their trajectory, they're going to land just after the finish line. Chio continued. But even with all that protection, they are still going to get injured. They're just as reckless as you, boy. The youthful heroine turned around to see Izuku, along with everyone else except for Inasa and Shoto. The spot where Izuku was supposed to be was empty. Hey. Everyone freaked out. Where did he go? Juzo asked. Shoto's and Inasa's eyes widened in surprise when in the blink of an eye, the catboy was already in the way of the human projectile. That was even faster than in the race. They both thought. How was that even possible? Izuku himself didn't know what had happened. He only remembered that recovery girl said the person would get injured, and the next thing he knew was that he was ready to catch them. The person hit him square in the torso. He embraced the person as he began to bounce again. But this time was completely different. Izuku's face was completely serious. Every time the person was the one who was going to make contact with the ground, the catboy used his riding reflex to rotate, always being on the receiving end. Their bounce came to an end with his back scraping for a fair distance. He endured the desire to scream in pain. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked the person resting on his chest. "Oh my god. Why did you do that? Why were you so reckless?" The person answered in panic while taking off their helmet. "I should be the one asking." Izuku lost his words when he saw the worried face of the person. Green emerald eyes met onyx eyes. Izuku Midoriya met Momo Yaoi Rozu. "Or," they both said at the same time. Their eyes widened at that. "Do you remember me?" They were in perfect synchrony. The black-haired girl smiled sweetly at him. Izuku returned the smile, but there was something else. A single tear came out of his right eye. This girl, he didn't even know her that well, and all he has is her family name. Yet she brought those bittersweet memories back in the blink of an eye. The tear wasn't unnoticed. "Are you okay?" Momo asked worriedly. "It just hurts a little," he answered. "I need to learn how to cope with these feelings." "Oh. I'm so sorry." She stood up ASAP, thinking she was hurting him. "Why did you do that?" The voice of Recovery Girl took them out of their stupor. To say she wasn't very happy was an understatement. Everyone else was behind her. Sorry. When you said she was going to get hurt, my body just moved." Izuku tried to explain. "Is it a new disease? It makes you hurt yourself when other people are in danger," Recovery Girl said, exasperated. "Does that have a name?" Izuku asked innocently. Gio pinched the bridge of her nose, trying to suppress the headache that was this kid. "Yes, and it's called being a true hero." She wasn't going to say that in front of the other examinees. The old lady had seen this disease before in a man called Toshinori Yagi, but his kid had it 10 times worse. Maybe Izawa was right about him. "Yes, and it's called being an idiot," she said. "Then I guess I'm the biggest idiot of them all." The catboy laughed at his own joke. Gio wanted to be mad at him, she really wanted to, but she couldn't. It was worrisome though. By saying that he just confirmed that he would do it again without a thought. If he passed both exams, she wondered how often she would see him at her infirmary. Gio didn't like that one bit. Everyone else couldn't help but admire this big idiot. Momo was blushing a little, she also was sweating. Then she remembered what she was wearing. That protective suit she made was too thick and in the middle of the sun, yeah, no wonder she was blushing. "So hot." Began to take it off. Every male's face exploded in red when they saw what she was wearing beneath the protective suit. Shorts with capital S and a sports bra that did a poor job at hiding what was inside, that was all. "Isn't she exposing too much skin?" Izuku asked himself while trying to look away. The glisten and smooth skin due to her sweat didn't help much. "So hot indeed." Satsuna said from behind Yaoi Rozu. Her arms went around just beneath Momo's upai, accentuating them as the black-haired girl squeaked in surprise. "Damn girl, where were you hiding all of this?" they asked teasingly. "And why are you exposing so much skin? Are you a pervert?" She couldn't help it, she was feeling great thanks to Izuku. The guys' faces went from red to crimson. Some even had to cover their nose. "I can't help it. I need to expose skin to use my quirk, okay," Momo explained while blushing in embarrassment. "You two quit that at once. There are guys around." Recovery Girl scolded them, to some of the guys' disappointment. "And you." She pointed at Izuku with her cane. "How much do you plan to lay down on the ground? Sit up so I can check your injuries." He did as he was told and showed them his back. The playful atmosphere died down immediately as everyone winced at what they saw. The back of his tracksuit wasn't there, even the shirt beneath wasn't there, but that wasn't the only thing that was gone. Skin, and maybe a little bit of flesh was gone too. "For the love of God, look at what you've done to you." The Recovery Girl raised her voice. "Take off your clothes right now," she ordered as she took out a flask to disinfect the wound. He did as he was told, revealing more scrapes and bruises around his torso. Gio poured the liquid over his back. He bit his lips trying to suppress a scream. "You did this to yourself, now you endure it." She was in mad grammar mode. Momo's face paled, she felt guilty about all this. Izuku saw her face from the corner of his eye. "Now, come with me to the infirmary. I need to take a better look at all this mess." The Recovery Girl began to walk away. The catboy stood up and followed the diminutive woman. He stopped in front of Yaoi Rozu. "Don't worry about it, you're not at fault." "But..." She was going to speak, but he didn't let her. "I did this to myself. Me, and only me, got it. Besides, as long as you and everyone else are safe, that will always be a win for me." He smiled. However, the look on her face told him she wasn't that convinced. Maybe it was time to try his new ability that he just learned about. He placed a hand on top of her head, and her eyes widened as she felt her worries being taken away. When she looked at his face, she was met with a bright smile. "Quit purring. It can heal, but it doesn't make miracles." The Recovery Girl hurried him. "Ah, yes." He began to jog behind her, leaving everyone silent. They stood there looking at his damaged back. until someone broke the silence. Damn, no wonder he kept up with those two. Did you see his physique? A man asked another. Yeah, dude. Where did he hide those muscles? Man, I had to go to the gym. Another guy commented. I want to go too, care if I join? Of course not, dude. Let's see who gets stronger faster. Now it was the time for the girls to explode in a blush. They had ignored it due to the seriousness of the situation, but with the remark of the boy, now it was impossible to take it out of their heads. Setsuna was trying to hide her blush behind a teasing grin, but she was failing fantastically. Momo was covering her red face with her hands. So indecent. Anasa and Shoto spared a glance at Izuku disappearing in the distance. Meanwhile in the control room. I know it is late to ask what Namiri said. But we can't give rescue points in this exam, right? She asked with a tense sign up in the air. Nezu burst in laughter. No, unfortunately, we can't. He answered. She looked sad. Then a smirk appeared on her face when she looked at Shota. I told you, you were going to regret this. Eraser opted to ignore her. However, on the inside. Maybe I made a mistake with this bet. The catboy was too close to getting first. This exam consisted of getting a lower time than everyone else. And he got third, but just by milliseconds. That was too close for his own liking. Izuku finally was allowed to leave the infirmary. The recovery girl wouldn't let him go until he got some rest. He understood where she was coming from. He got 2 shots of her quirk, so he was feeling a little tired. The catboy arrived at the interview room after changing clothes. There he only found the principal, Nezu, waiting for him at the door. I guess I'm the last one, Izuku said with a gentle smile. Indeed. The other examinees went home already. Nezu responded. Now, come in. They entered the room. Please take a seat. He did. Now. It's a pleasure to finally meet you in person, Izuku Midoriya-kun. Likewise, Principal Nezu. Okay, let's start by reviewing your performance today. Izuku nodded. Just you along with another person were the only ones to get a perfect score in the written test. Congratulations. The catboy bowed humbly. In the practical test, you got second place among everyone else. His eyes widened in surprise. Wait a second. But I was third in my group. Isn't there a mistake? I'm afraid there's none. One of the examinees decided to decline his application to UA, which by default gives you second place. Nezu explained. As someone declined, he couldn't believe it. Who was it? And why did they do such a thing? Izuku couldn't help but think he could have done something about it. He was filled with regret. Why didn't he pay more attention? I'm sorry, but I can't disclose that information. The principal shook his head. Sorry for asking that. Don't worry. Now, let's continue. The last part of the exam. This interview is just me telling people if they passed or not. And you, Izuku Midoriya-kun, have passed. Congratulations. Nezu began to clap his paws. Normally we would only pass 4 people in this exam. That was a really low number. But you're an exceptional case. And this isn't over yet for you. Yes. That's why this is the first and only case in which 5 students have passed. Now before you go, I would like to ask some questions. Yes sir. Izuku prepared himself. Why do you want to be a pro hero? The rodent asked. A pro hero, he trailed off. I want a license to finally save people legally, sir. Nezu began to laugh uncontrollably. Nobody, in all my years as principal, has ever given me that answer. This kid just kept surprising him. Of all the answers he predicted in his head, this was the only one that wasn't there. I see. So, this is just another step in your way to your dream. Izuku nodded. That's great. Now the last question. The atmosphere got serious all of a sudden. How do I smell you? It took a moment for Izuku to process it. He smiled mischievously. You smell delicious, sir. I see. So, if you pass, I will have to watch my back around the campus. Izuku laughed too. That's enough jokes for today. I will see you in 3 days, Izuku Midoriya-kun. Yes sir. They both shared a smile, then Izuku stood up and left. Nezu stood there looking at the door. How strange, for a second, it felt like you and I were the same. When the catboy got to the gate, he found 3 people there. Ah. He's here. He's here. Setsuna's voice caught the other two's attention. What are you doing here, you 3? Izuku asked in astonishment. We wanted to see if you were okay, Juzo answered. Hey Midoriya, did you pass? Setsuna asked the big question. Yeah, and you? He returned the question. I barely made it. They said with a peace sign. I made it as well, Juzo answered in his calm and reserved way. Izuku looked at the third person who hadn't spoken yet. Momoyaoi Rozu was a little nervous. I also passed. Here, and thanks for saving me back then. She gave him his green tracksuit. Hey, did you repair it? It looks new. He accepted it. That's because it is. I created it with my quirk. Also, let me introduce myself. I'm Momo Yaoi Rozu, it's a pleasure to meet you. She smiled at him. Thank you so much. He bowed his head. I'm Izuku Midoriya, and the pleasure is all mine. He returned the smile. Well, how about we? Setsuna was going to say something, but was cut off. Hey. Izuku. The catboy turned his head and found Inasa a few meters away, waving at him. Give me a moment. The teen said to the trio as he jogged in his direction. Hey, Inasa-kun. Hey, did you make it? The tall young man asked. Yeah, how about you? I declined. Izuku froze. He wanted to ask a million things, but Inasa beat him to it. I thought about what you said. For a second I almost became what I hated the most, but you opened my eyes, thanks for that. Though, I still can't stand it. I can't stand him. That's why I declined. Boo. Number 23. He's awesome, but I cannot stand his attitude. Like you said before, it isn't very hero-like. Inasa told him with a serious face. But, that's not why I'm here. You're awesome too. Let's be friends. Izuku smiled. Sure. Let's exchange numbers. He pulled his phone out. Yeah. Inasa did the same. Want to come with us? Izuku asked while pointing at the trio behind him. Sorry, I can't. I need to look for another high school to become a hero. I see then, let's become great heroes. The catboy held his fist up. Yeah. Inasa bumped his fist with his new friend. Then he jogged away. See you around. Yeah. He should introduce Inasa to Kirishima. They would get along amazingly. Izuku went back to the trio. What was it? Juzo asked. The new friend. He answered. And maybe 3 new ones on the way. He asked. Sure. The pale young man said. Yeah, Setsuna smirked. I'll be in your care. Momo bowed a little. Hey, so how about we go eat something to celebrate we all are going to the same high school? The green-haired girl proposed. That sounds lovely, Yaoi Rozu answered while Juzo nodded. Izuku laughed awkwardly. He couldn't tell them that he hadn't passed yet and it wasn't guaranteed that he would. Okay. Then up we go. They began to walk away. By the way, Midoriya. Setsuna called his name. Yeah? Can I have your autograph? Izuku stumbled with nothing. Come again. Come on, dude. Just for me. Pretty please, she winked while holding her hands together as if she was praying, trying to look innocent. That wasn't playing fair. No man can say no to a pretty please coming from a girl. Okay, he conceded a little embarrassed. Though I have never done it before. Oh. So, I guess I will be your first for this too. She said with a smirk. I wonder if I will be the first for other things too. She teased. Izuku looked away, trying to hide his red face. That's indecent. Momo raised her voice, a little embarrassed as well. Juzo just shook his head in disapproval. For the love of God, please don't put me in the same group with her. He prayed. Thanks for watching my video and make sure to check out the author of this fanfic, link is in the description, see you next time, till then sayonara.